All right. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you, the Dean of the USC School of Pharmacy, Dr. Vasilios Papadopoulos, for allowing us to be here today. So welcome to the board's December 14, 2018 board's meeting. My name is Victor Law. I'm the president of the board. So as I call this meeting to order, I would like to advise all members of the public, both present or watching the members' webcast, that the board is a consumer protection agency subject to the Open Meetings Act. Members of the board may be using an electronic copy. That such members are using their devices for this purpose and are not communicating with each other via email or other electronic means. And I would like to remind everyone present who is interested in receiving continuing education credit to remember to sign in and out on the designated sheet in the back of the room. The meeting is being webcast, so we respectfully request that when called upon to speak, please come to the speaker's table and speak directly into the microphone. Now, this will ensure those individuals watching the webcast are aware of all discussion and action. As indicated on the agenda, the board will convene in closed session. The board intends to do so at the conclusion of hearing the petitions for reinstatement or other reduction of penalty. Upon conclusion of closed session, the board will reconvene in open session and will adjourn the meeting in open session. The portion of the meeting will not be webcast. Well, I thank you all for attending, and I look forward to a productive meeting. And now I would like to take a roll call and establish the quorum. Let's start with Maria over there.
Maria Serpa, professional member.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Greg Lippy, public member.
Victor Law, professional licensee member.
Debbie Veal, professional licensee member.
Well, then Stan Weiser, professional licensee member.
No, I can't let Victor do that.
Albert Wong, professional member.
Okay, now that a quorum's been established, so we can move on to agenda item number 2. Is public comments on items not on the agenda or agenda items for future meetings. Is there anybody who would like to come up from the public? Good morning, Danny. Push the button there.
Morning, board members. Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. I'd like to request a meeting, or an agenda item for a future meeting regarding to establish a peer review committee during the enforcement process to helpfully expedite enforcement actions and perhaps save some time and money on both the board and the licensee behalf. So that's what I'd like to request.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So a couple meetings now that I've asked. The enforcement process, as we all know, has been very long and arduous for some of our licensee members. Accusations or issues that have happened 4 or 5 years ago that are just now being adjudicated. Several members of our association have come up to us and asked us to establish what we would call a peer review committee. Name can change at some point, but the intent of this is to sort of triage issues well at the beginning of the process so that they don't drag out for long periods of time. I know several licensees have come up to us and told us that, you know, this whole issue that they went through could have been avoided or could have been more expeditious towards the beginning had there been an opportunity to address either the board or staff earlier in the process. We've been working on kind of the mechanics of this peer review committee. We're just waiting for it to be agendized.
So do you have a package proposal you'd like to present to the committee for discussion?
We are working on it. It's almost complete. And if it is agendized, we will have that ready to go.
Okay, I'll defer that to Ellen. Where's Ellen? Oh, Alan is the chair of the enforcement committee.
Great.
So we'll defer that for his agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Stein.
Good morning. Robert Stein from the KGI School of Pharmacy. As many of you are aware, in July of 2017, the DEA issued a letter allowing the forwarding of unfilled electronic controlled substance prescriptions, including Schedule II. However, there is no mechanism to orally transfer between pharmacies an unfilled e-prescription. And obviously, there are a lot of logistics issues that need to be addressed. My concern is that currently in the regulation 1717E uses the same language as in the federal law, which basically says it can pharmacists may transfer prescriptions for the purpose of refills. That doesn't adequately address the situation where an e-prescription is received by pharmacy A. The patient wants it filled at pharmacy B. Since the prescription was never filled in the first place, at least according to the letter of the regulation, it doesn't accommodate the ability for pharmacists to do this. From my understanding, talking to several pharmacists at different chains, the standard of practice today is tell the patient to call their doctor and have it sent to the other pharmacy. And I think that's a real inconvenience for patients and an impediment to good patient care. So I'm asking to agendize a discussion about modifying 1717E to include language allowing the forwarding of unfilled electronic prescriptions.
That would probably come to
Licensing committee. So,
Yeah.
all right, well,
would that need a statutory change? Wow, can you hear it?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Oh, maybe is it too many lights are on? Yeah. Oh, does it work now? No. Anywho, yeah, so we'll take it to licensing. My question was, is that a statutory situation or is that, I'm assuming that might be.
It's federal regulatory, which the bar is at the federal, well, mine's, maybe we just don't have a active, okay. As I understand, this is one of the things I intend to do before I leave in the next couple of weeks is take this up again with the DEA. But it's a DEA requirement that they don't want them transferred, is particularly the twos when they land in a pharmacy. They don't want to transfer it unless it's been at least filled once. And on a two, you can't refill it. So we will go ahead and address it. It's my understanding they're looking to fix this as part of their e-prescribing rewrite of the requirements, which certainly is due. But you're really looking at a federal issue as much as a state issue.
Well, I'm not talking about controlled substances, though. I'm talking even for non-controlled substances, currently the regulation is written doesn't accommodate that. And again, I guess the board could issue some kind of exemption or notice in the script that, you know, that it's equivalent to transferring. But again, the letter of the regulations currently is not addressing this issue.
So at the Enforcement Committee next week, we're going to be talking about implementation of the e-prescribing bill, and that is one of the issues that we expect the committee will be considering.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So would it be, Ann, would it be licensing or would it be enforcement then?
So at the last board meeting, we believed that the consensus of the board was for the Enforcement Committee to discuss implementation of various pieces of legislation, and this was one of the pieces that is agendized. Perhaps during the course of the discussion, we'll have a better feel for whether or not it should be transferred to the Licensing Committee, but it is scheduled for enforcement next week.
Thank you, Ann, for the clarification. Okay. Any more comments? All right, please come up.
Of OC Pharmacy down here in Southern California. To consider it from a consumer safety and patient safety standpoint, which is what I understand the goal of the board is. As they come down harder and harder on community pharmacies, I believe that the inadvertent economic impact that it's having on all of us will cause many pharmacies to again, cutting corners that will really compromise patient safety.
Well, like Ann said, next week we have an enforcement committee. We'll go through all the new law implementing. AB 315 is one of them, so you want to come in and just to give some input on that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. Number 3 is the recognition and celebration of pharmacists licensed in California for 50 years. Do we have anybody here that's licensed over 50 years? I thought we had. I thought we had one, didn't we? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe next time. Okay, if that's the case, let's move on to agenda item number 4. Discussion and consideration of board's fund and proposal to amend California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1749, Fee Schedule. Let me give you a little background. In November 2015, the Department of Consumer Affairs completed an analysis of the board's fund condition and fee structure. This analysis was initiated at the request of the board and done in partnership with the board. The intent of the analysis was to determine the sustainability of the board's fund and to ensure that the board was collecting sufficient revenue to fully reimburse the board for the cost of regulating those individuals and businesses within its jurisdiction. As indicated in the report, the goal of the analysis was to zero-base the board's budget down to the services behind processing each initial and renewal application. The conclusion of the analysis found that the current level of fees was not sufficient to keep the board's fund solvent, and that fees needed to be adjusted to reflect the actual cost to the board to provide service and process each license type. As part of the recommendations from this analysis, it was suggested that the set new fee ceilings be set at a rate that would allow the board the flexibility to adjust fees through the regulatory process and maintain the fund's solvency through the next 10 years. After review and consideration of the findings of the analysis, the board pursued a statutory change in 2016 as part of its sunset review process to recast its fees. This recasting resulted in new statutory maximum fees. The board's new fee structure took effect on July 2017, but not all fees were increased at that time. Specifically, of the board's 118 fees, 7 application fees and 14 renewal fees were increased. 3 application fees were reduced. It is important to note that since completion of the fee analysis, there have been major budget adjustments impacting the board. Although final budget figures for fiscal year 2017 and 18 are not available, preliminary numbers suggested that overall, the board's expenditures have increased 30% since fiscal year 2014 and 15. The largest areas of expenditure growth being a 31% increase in personnel expenses and a 62% increase in pro rata, including statewide pro rata and DCA pro rata. So, and then we have a new memo from the department, right, Jenny?
Yes, we do. It should be in the, sorry, it should be in the packet. It was dated December 10th.
Okay, do you want to read that?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Address to you.
The participation part of the meeting here. It was written by the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office, their fiscal officer. It's dated December 10th, and it was addressed to me. It regards the projected fund insolvency. During the process of building the 2019-20 governor's budget, which is the budget that will take effect July 1, of 2019. The Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office has reviewed the California State Boards of Pharmacy's fund condition and has made the following conclusions. 1. Expenditures have increased on average 11% per year. Increases in expenditures are primarily due to programmatic and legislative budget change proposals, the associated increase in departmental and state distributed costs, which we also know as pro rata, and legislatively approved bargaining unit salaries and benefit increases. 2, board revenues have increased significantly in 2014 and 15 and 2017 and 18 due to a fee increase and the creation of new licensure categories and the associated revenue streams. While revenue has increased significantly, it is not increasing at the same rate as the board's expenditures, and the department is concerned that without the board action to balance expenditures and revenue, the board will be facing insolvency as early as 2020. The attached simplified fund condition shows 5 prior years of expenditures and revenue, as well as the projected current year and 3 years out. Please contact the fiscal officer with questions.
And staff and our Vice President Greg Lippy met and recommended that the board consider 3 things. Number 1, raising fees to their statutory maximum levels for all sterile compounding and outsourcing facilities. Number 2, raising all other fees to the midway point between the statutory minimum and maximum level. Number 3, initiating a new fee analysis to determine a long-term sustainable fee structures. So should the board agree with the recommendation, the following motion could be used to initiate the process. We should initiate the formal rulemaking process to amend the text of Title 16, Section 1749, relating to board fees as proposed, and authorize the executive officer to make any clarifying changes consistent with the board's policy to the rulemaking package and provide a 40-day public comment period. Direct staff to initiate a new fee analysis to determine the zero-based costs similar to the fee analysis that was completed by the DCA. Okay, board members, comment?
There's the motion.
I've got a question.
Yeah, I do too.
I have a couple of questions, but primarily item number 2, raising all other fees to the midway point between the statutory minimum and maximum. How and why did you decide midway? Or was it just an arbitrary thing?
Well, the motion is to do number 3, to do the fee analysis.
Motions to do all 3 things.
It is?
It's to accept all
Because it
3.
says direct staff to initiate a new fee analysis.
Right.
Initiate the formal rulemaking process to amend Title 16, 1749, which is our fees.
Right, to accept the 3 points and direct staff to initiate.
Okay, so back to item number 2.
I don't.
It was an attempt to not have to raise the fees all the way up on all categories, because it was determined that the area that utilizes the majority of the services in this area is in the sterile compounding. It takes more time, more bodies to deal with the sterile compounding than it does all the other areas.
Well, I understand that there are going to be certain areas that are going to be more expensive and more dollar needy than other areas. But if you look at what we're trying to accomplish, I think, is to deal with our reserve, and and so dealing with our reserve, I mean, that's an issue for everything, and I can understand how, you know, we feel that, well, maybe sterile compounding expenses are so great that we should deal with that particular area more aggressively than maybe other areas. However, it's kind of like, in my view, if we're looking at just one area or a few areas rather than across the board, and we are looking across the board, but when we're looking at just midway between minimum and maximum, and when you look at in 2022, doing what we're proposed to do, our reserve will only be at 3.6 months as
Right.
opposed to where we are today at 3.3. And granted, I see that there's a dip, but we're not being, I don't feel we're being aggressive enough to
Right.
to,
Well,
to deal with the fee, to
typically-
deal with the reserve.
Typically, you would want to see 6 months in reserve if possible.
Well, I thought we
But-
were required to have a year.
Recommended.
Oh, it's recommended. Okay.
It's
Well,
recommended.
and also,
Huh?
Recommended in statute.
Oh, well, so that's a touch more than
But that's
recommended.
not going to be
and if you look at the
possible.
fund condition report that they sent us, actually in 2019-20, we actually are negative,
That's why you
0.1.
have to act now.
So that information
Yeah.
is dated.
Well, regardless of whether it's dated or not, if
we're,
we
we're
get to 3.
minus 0.1 in 19-20.
Yeah, but it underscores my point all the more. But we're not going to turn this ship around by 2020 or whenever. The issue is that in 21-22, according to our numbers, our months in reserve will be 3.6 as opposed to today when they're 3.3 months in reserve. So in effect, it's going to take us 3 years to have no impact at all, in spite of the fact that we're increasing our fees. So again, getting back to my point, why midway between minimum and maximum? Why not go 75% and increase your fee, increase your reserve, which is what we're trying to do.
We're trying to be kind to the profession and kind of do it gradually. But anyway.
So, absolutely hear what you're saying, and we considered a lot of different scenarios, and ultimately we landed on this as a way to, excuse the expression, stop the bleeding while we get a new analysis to see where we need to go. We do have, should the board be interested, we do have a list of comparison that shows as proposed in the packet as well as to the statutory max, and you're absolutely correct. If we move everything to the statutory maximum, we will be bringing in about $4 million more a year, and we will actually be able to start restoring our fund as opposed to just stopping the bleeding. So we brought it just in case it would be helpful. The recommendation was the midway point so that we could do the new analysis. We could absolutely still do the new analysis even if we move them to the statutory maxes. If it's helpful, we're happy to pass that out.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but if you, let's say you do
Wait
it
a minute, you
at
don't-
too
you
late maybe, huh? But if you, let's say we do this as recommended, we do a new analysis, and the analysis says, well, you should increase your fees. So the only thing that we have done is delayed what we probably know is the analysis is going to tell us. And so,
Absolutely agree.
thank
Yes,
you.
we will find ourselves
Let the
here again.
absolutely agree in the minutes.
So looking at the proposal again and making sure I understand it, thank you. So initiate the formal rulemaking, that would mean that we would do number 1 and number 2.
Right.
Well, and number 3, but
Number
1 and
3
2
is
would
set-
happen
was separate.
fairly quickly.
Right.
And what is the impact of doing that?
There it is.
It's still gonna take a while, minimum of what?
Yeah,
Maybe 9 months.
Originally, we were hoping to have it in effect by January 1 of 2020. We didn't take action at the October meeting, so I'm not quite sure we can get the regulation through by then, but that was the initial hope.
And I would also remind the board members that rulemaking takes a little bit of time, so depending on how long it takes to do the analysis, there is the opportunity to do a 15-day change if the numbers
We don't have time
change.
for that.
Yeah,
we've,
we'll see.
we've consulted with the department. We were actually, we had actually requested that perhaps they would be able to target a couple of our fees, and they're unable to do so. So, but to like take it back a little bit, our fee structure that's in our statute was done based on a fee analysis, and they determined the appropriate statutory minimum and statutory maximum. So it's not like you're making a decision based on old information. Absolutely, things have changed in our world, in how we regulate and the number of programs that we have, expenditures and everything else. So I believe that you're making a decision based on relevant information. We were thinking out of, in terms of being good government and making sure that we're being responsible with our fund, that we should follow up with a new fee audit. It's dated, but in my opinion, and I believe that the department believes this as well, we cannot wait to do a new fee analysis. We need to rely on the current one for purposes of what you have before you, and then we'll do a follow-up that we can then reassess. But we have to address the fund now or we're insolvent.
So if we went to, let's say, 75% between minimum and maximum, would that, I mean, it certainly would have a more positive result than we're going to have. But do we have any numbers about that?
So my guess would be it'll probably result in a little over 2 million more than what we have here. So it's probably about a month. It would add about a month of reserve if we went that way. So, adding it on. And if we went to the statutory maxes, I believe it's about 4 million a year.
And how many months? So that would be another month.
So that would be 2 months.
So we'd be at about 5.6, almost 6.
Yeah, right. Probably. So we would have to rerun the numbers, but we can, like I said, we can pass out what we have if that would be helpful. At the bottom of it, we indicate based on the proposed fees what our new revenue will be, and then how much additional that is over what we currently will be receiving. So we believe that with the midway point as proposed in the packet, it'll be about 4.3 million additional per year. And if you did decide to go to the statutory maximums, it would be 8, which is why I was guessing about 2 additional over the proposal that's in there.
If you did the what? What was the thing that brought it to 8?
If you go to statutory max for all fees.
I think I asked earlier, so where are we today? So if we did this, we would be 4 months.
3.6.
Yeah, a little less than 4.
Yeah,
yeah.
right up here.
Oh, this is with the changes.
Yes,
right.
That's with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you're passing out was in the packet. The
Right.
only additional thing is we added on the statutory max so that you all could see that as well. We were trying to anticipate where questions may be.
So if it's increased to the statutory max, like a pharmacist license would be from 195 to 215 a year.
Every 2 years.
For every 2 years. Yes. Every 2 years. So actually, the total is like $20 for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's
and
not,
then
that's
we
not
also
really too bad. I mean, comparing, but
in the meeting materials, Board Member Wong had asked for some comparisons, so we did put some comparisons in. So we have physicians, which I believe was the request, and then we also added in dentists, so you can compare those, their exam, license, and renewal fees. And then we also tried to compare some sites were unique in DCA, and that were one of the only ones. So we looked to CDPH, and we pulled out some, but also as an attachment is their full fee schedule.
yeah, comparing to the other profession, it's not too bad.
So it does appear that we did not increase all. I mean, there's a couple here that. No, but a proposed fee for 2020. There's a few here that there's not a increase, and just why?
So those may be new licensing programs.
Okay.
And because they were outside of the fee analysis, we didn't have anything to base it on, and we're trying to stay true to the fee analysis.
And so as far as getting it through the rulemaking process, it'd be hard for us to increase those fees since we don't have a fee analysis on them.
I think it would be a more difficult justification, and I don't know that we have time to try to do a mini analysis of those to try to get the fee.
So can I ask staff, Jenny, and anybody else who'd like to respond, what is the downside in your view of going to the max, and why has staff not recommended the max?
Well, I think you heard from Ms. Sodergren. It was a conservative approach. We do not run into an increased fee situation recommendation without really substantive evidence that we need it. The end result of this is that instead of going like we're trying to generate a lot of revenue, hence future program expansion, more of everything, what we're trying to do is approach this conservatively and then get you the numbers you need based on a new fee analysis to make sure the fees are most appropriately set, because things changed. Basically that the pro rata alone increasing as much as it did has caught us by surprise. We didn't know we were going to get substantial salary increases through the collective bargaining process, which we weren't even privy to. And then it's an attempt to be fiscally responsible, but on the conservative side, as opposed to generating a lot of revenue and just building up our fund. So instead, we did the most what can get us through this emergency? What's going to give the board a chance to have some numbers in front of them to make future decisions on? And what do we really have to have? The 50% increase for the other classes is the minimum we really need to have. And that's what we recommended because of that, and Mr. Lippy agreed.
How long do you think it'll take to get the analysis done?
I think
Maybe
the last,
talking
well,
years.
it depends on who does it, but figure 6 months to a year probably.
Yeah, the contracting,
That's
we're
on a
gonna have
good-
to
that's on a
identify a
good
vendor.
day.
So, right, so the contracting process itself is going to be
And
quite
I was
lengthy.
thinking last time we had it done, we had to send them back to kind of
We
modify.
did. We did
There was
one
I
firm,
opportunities.
another-
so Stan, you're kind of convincing me that maybe we do go to the max, because why not get ourselves in a healthy situation and not, because otherwise we're going to just be back here in 2 years after we get the analysis and we're going to have to do it again. Why not
That
get
may be the
ourselves
case
healthy?
anyway.
What's
What?
that?
That may be the case anyway.
Right, even if we go to the max. But if we go to
Yeah.
the max, at least we get ourselves, we stop this, we get ourselves healthy, and then maybe it's
All right,
longer before we.
all right, I'll change my motion.
So you talk about only what, $20-$30 increase every 2 years?
It depends
Well,
on the
that's just for,
licensing
it
class.
depends on the class.
That's for, yeah,
Pharmacists,
For
it's-
pharmacists.
right.
Yeah, so for pharmacists, it was,
Okay, I'll change my motion to go max on all fees.
All right, we
I'll
have,
second
we have a
that.
motion
I'll
by
second
Greg,
Oh,
we have
Ellen was the second.
Alan. was-
Albert, just so you know, the proposed fee for pharmacists, for instance, is $205, and this would take it to $215, so it's $10.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, motion by Greg and second by Alan and also by Stan. Yeah, question, Marie.
Question about, I agree with going to the statutory max on all areas, but I think there's a few areas that we need to discuss a little bit more. And one was the pharmacist licensure. It looks like it actually is going from the current 360 to 505 every 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we should discuss a little bit more, since that's a significant increase, and that's the area that probably will get the most commentary. The others, I think, are not significant. Even the pharmacy technician is only going from 140 to 195, which is still $25 per year, is not such an onerous amount. And the others don't appear to be onerous either. But I'd like to have a little bit more discussion about the pharmacist license. The proposed was to go to $432 every 2 years, and the max is $505. So that would be an increase of what?
It's $145 from 360 to 505 is 145, $72.25 a year.
You're better at math than I am. Thank
I'm
you.
not better. I just was expecting that.
You already did the math.
Wait, is it every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
would be the
Yeah.
140.
And that's the problem, though, with our licensees, is that they don't interpret that as what is the annual amount, because when you look at the annual amount, it really is not significant for the income of a pharmacist. But when they're looking at paying every 2 years, over $500 now, that seems to hurt a little bit more. And so we either need to explain it a lot better or take that out of the statutory max recommendation.
Well, I'm a pharmacist, and I, like most of the probably all the licensed members here, am confronted with paying the fee. My biggest worry is usually, however, CE units, but that's another story. But it's just the fees go up, and the reality of it is, I understand where we have to be sensitive to the issues that the different categories are represented by. But my responsibility in this case is to be responsible to the board and to the needs of the board. I mean, we are in dire need of doing something because of our reserve fund. I mean, we are, approaching zero on our, and if the state's numbers are right, we're going to be under zero on our reserve fund, and that is a very weak place to be for any organization.
And Stan, I do agree with you. I think that my only point is that we have that discussion, that we document, that we have talked about it, and perhaps include something in the script or maybe even an email blast to really explain this, because it's a huge percentage increase, and the perception will be that, oh my gosh, it's now, a significant amount more. But when you look at the annual, it's really not that much. And I think most pharmacists are going to not even notice, perhaps.
Yeah, I said that in the past. I think since we asked them to pay more, and also we try to give some back to the licensee by the route of CE credit. We having the DEA, we give them 7 unit, free unit on that. And I'd like to see a little more increase on those programs. Maybe the board sponsor more CE, like the law and also the new law, the pharmacy law and our new legislation. And we offer those more program of those CE classes, so they could get it back, through save money through that way. So they might not feel as hard.
Well, you're right, Albert. Yeah, actually, if you average it out, even $500 for 2 years is like $250 a year. It's like $20 a month. You ask people to join the health club or any other club, they play sports, you have to pay more than $20 a month for that. And it is a professional fees. So I mean, you've averaged it out, it's really not too bad. Maybe it was too low before that you don't realize. You ask the doctors and the dentists, they pay a lot more. So I know it's a big increase, but as the member of the board here, we have to sustain a position here to protect the profession and public. So I agree with Stan and Lippy. We have to get to the maximum to get us over. This is a urgency right now on the board level, and we have to take care of it right now. Otherwise, you go through all the other study again. It'll come back in another 6 months, 9 months or so. That will give us in danger. So, and I think we need to move forward.
I just also think we have to be really careful not to just call out and not do the increase to the pharmacists, because we're pharmacists. I just think it won't look right. So if we're going to take that approach, then we have to go through.
It's across the board for all the licensees, not just pharmacists.
Yeah, so I think the fair way to handle it is we have to, do the statutory maximum. Now, when we do the analysis, because I remember when we did the analysis last time, and we got to the range, there were some categories that we didn't push up as much as others. For instance, technicians, we were very sensitive to them last time. And maybe this time when we do the analysis, we have to look at it a little differently and fairly move people around. But I think at this point, as I stated already, I think we should go to the maximum. And I think we just have to be very careful not to pick out one category, especially ours.
No, we should. We'll take that into consideration.
Yes.
Okay. Any other public members? Public comments?
I just wanted to say that I agree. I just wanted to have the discussion, and also wanted to have a section or whatever the information that goes out to the public about this change, that it be written in a way that explains all of this.
Yes, we sure will. Thank you for the reminder.
One more thing. On all those CE program, free CE program, I'd like to see it on a various location, not used on a certain location that they not access to it. So we would like to have more locations so everybody get a chance to take them.
Santa Barbara was a very pretty place to go. So.
Well, and what we can.
So onerous. Come on.
In the past, we've also, as far as CE, we've not really put CE opportunities on our website. I know that's, public ed. And maybe that's something we should take to the Communication Public Ed Committee, is that maybe on our website we post free CE opportunities.
Not just ours, but others? Or
Yes, I think,
That
yeah.
one will work a little bit with legal. We may have a problem with posting the free ones that are available from other sources. Sorry.
But, I mean, once again, if it's 30 hours, then,
Yeah.
30 hours times whatever.
Does that mean we're endorsing the
But
program?
but
Well,
those are,
that's been the problem in the past.
Yeah,
but
that-
but a lot of time those space is limited, and I think that we have overflow, and not everybody got opportunity to take them. So we'd like to see a little more of those programs.
And generally, Albert, our CE sessions are generally really. Debbie cut me off in the middle. Are generally pretty well attended.
It's a lot more demand than space available. That's what.
Well, we're trying really hard to get out there, and our inspectors yesterday, I had a meeting with some of them, and they have been going out and doing speaking gigs in the evening on a wider basis. I've done it for a long time, but they've started to fill in the gaps because we can't cover all of the demand. So we try really hard to give them that.
Okay, public comment?
Good morning, Danny Martinez with the California Farmers Association. First off, I want to thank the board for not voting on this in October, because I think this discussion is really important to really flesh it out, and I really do appreciate that opportunity. I agree that the analysis here does a great explanation of explaining what the raw numbers are and where the funds are and the reserves. All that, absolutely agree. But I think the thing that I have not heard yet this morning is, how is this board going to improve any sort of efficiencies in the way it spends its money? And I say that because looking at this analysis of the fund condition, ever since 2013, 2014, there's been a deficit in place versus how much you guys are bringing in and how much you guys are spending. In 2013, 2014, there was a $2.1 million deficit. It dropped to $1 million the next fiscal year. It went up to 1.25 the following year. And at 2016, 2017, it went back up to $2.5 million. That's when the last fee increase went into effect. And even with that fee increase that went into effect, it's estimated that for fiscal year 2017-18, there's still going to be a $1.4 million deficit. So my question is, the last time that we had this issue to raise fees, why did it all of a sudden, because now at upcoming current year, 2018, 2019, according to DCA, there's going to be a $3.5 million deficit. So what was said during the last fee increase discussion that convinced everybody that this problem would go away, only for it to resurface twice as bad in less than a year? And so,
I think part of that is our executive officer spoke to, and that is that we had a collective bargaining
yes,
that we did not anticipate, nor do we participate in.
I don't
So
think
I
that
think
yes,
that's the main.
well, so
and the
I
program.
agree that there's items. I mean, having worked in the legislature, I completely understand and agree that there are things that are just out of your control, that people want to solve the world, they want to solve the world's problems, and you just kind of have to deal with it. What I'm saying is that that's not the entire pie that's being discussed. It may be a majority, and it may be something significant, but I would also question what other expenditures is the board doing that perhaps could be better, more efficient. And so, I come from a long line of people telling me you can't just solve problems by throwing money at it and hoping it gets fixed. And it seems to me, and it seems to a lot of our members, that this is exactly what that is. Seeing that this is now the second, as I mentioned before, this is the second fee increase in 2 years. And while I understand, Board Member Wong and having to want to compare to physicians and even dentists, the question shouldn't be, well, the pharmacists are only paying so much, and look at how much physicians are paying, or look how much dentists are paying. I would argue the more important point is, what are other boards doing with their funds? And I'll give you a couple examples. I know some of these, perhaps most of these, are not DCA boards, so maybe there's an issue there. I don't know. But the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, from January 2010 to January 2018, had one total fee increase, and it was 10% across the board. The Contractor State Licensing Board, from 2011 to 2017, had one fee increase. The Board of Accountancy, which I know you're familiar with, in 2016 and 2017 had a fee decrease because they had over 2 years in reserve. So my question is, what are they doing, and what can this board emulate from them to get to that point? Because I understand that different boards regulate differently. Maybe there's an issue of overregulation. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing there, and I'm saying I don't know that because that information is not made available.
So
And
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Mike, okay. Your point is well taken, and I appreciate it. I think it's the public's duty to ask us what we're doing here. But what I would rather that you do is, rather than ask us, what are you guys going to do, is say, hey, this is what I think you should do. And just giving those fee increases, that's superfluous.
Yes.
And so I want to get home early tonight, so I want you. I appreciate what you're doing, and I think you're totally within your realm of doing it. But I want something more specific, and I know we all kind of think that you've got a point.
So you got it just a little bit ahead of me. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask one question about what you just said?
Yes.
I know our board gets no money from the legislature. Is that true about those other boards?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm looking at. I
So
was looking at
we
other.
may be looking apples to apples, but we may not be.
Maybe, and if they are getting money from the legislature, I'm just gonna
Well,
stop
Danny,
there.
Danny,
Yeah,
we
it's-
got a lot more legislation to deal with than all the board that you mentioned. All the like accounting board, all this.
Okay.
And also, I think one of my suggestions how to make it efficient, more efficient, is that I think we have a lot of cases. It's very unimportant cases that was involved in the lawsuit.
Did you guys read my stuff ahead of time? Because that's exactly
hey,
where I'm going.
we weren't born yesterday, okay? So I mean, I think that's one area we are looking into in the coming year. So
Okay.
a
Well,
lot of those cases that are necessary, which we would like to figure a way how to eliminate them.
So let me just kind of end because that's kind of where my ending here is and I will say it has been disappointing a little bit that what I actually mentioned during public comment at the beginning of this meeting is not a new issue. This is an issue that we've been asking for months now, and it's an idea at least worth discussing to save the board money. But comments that I've received say that this issue is not even going to be agendized till March. And this is an idea that's coming from the public, from licensees, a simple idea to perhaps save some money. And to not have that idea even discussed until at least March of 2019 is what makes CPHA and its members nervous about any time there's a fee increase. It doesn't seem to be any desire to want to make the process more efficient. And so I agree with board member Serpa. The actual amount probably is not significant. I will say I have received calls from members who will absolutely be angry with any amount increase, and that does exist. But to the bigger point is there doesn't seem to be, at least from a matter of our perception, that there's any sort of desire to make the process more efficient, to perhaps curtail some of that unnecessary regulation in all areas. And I'm not just talking enforcement, I'm talking compounding, I'm talking all other areas as well. And so what I'd like for this board to consider, because I know where this vote's going. I'm not naive to that. But during that process, there's going to be a comment period, and you will be receiving comments from members and non-members and pharmacists all across California. You will be receiving these types of comments, and I know that because I've been receiving them. And I want you guys to really think about, perhaps, I don't know if it's more, I guess what I'm asking is I want you guys to take this more seriously in the sense of when we have proposed solutions and we bring these ideas to committees, that the committees actually take us up on at least a presentation. And so I'm happy, hopefully, that at the next enforcement committee, we'll be able to talk about a potential cost-saving solution to the board. But again, I stress that that's not until March. And,
Well,
and,
So
go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I mean, you know more than probably all of us because you've lived the legislative process.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well,
That, so we have an enforcement committee like next week. Well, we have to agendize.
Correct.
So we can't get it on that. So
I don't
think
I don't want
March
to
is the next
belabor
one.
I don't want to belabor the point.
Okay,
What I
but-
mentioned earlier was that I had tried to agendize it earlier, and it was not. What you're looking at me?
I need to say that we've been waiting for your written proposal, which we've been waiting for 4 months, which is my understanding we still don't have.
Okay.
And that was a commitment to put you on the agenda. We want the proposal up front. And when the chair made the decision what items go to the meeting in December, your proposal wasn't addressed because we didn't have your written proposal. And I think it's important that you understand that
Okay.
because lots of people want open mics during these meetings. We have to have a structured
I
format.
understand. I understand.
And also, Danny, I noticed while I'm here serving the board is that I noticed, like you say, like she said, you involved in a lot of legislation, and I noticed some of the legislation you guys pushing and proposing, I don't think some of them is necessary. And the more regulation you push in unnecessary regulation, the more we have to deal with, and where the money go come from deal with it. So before you push for the next legislation or sponsor next legislation, think about the consequence before you do that.
Will do. Thank you.
The other thing I was going to say is, I think we have been looking at efficiencies. I know in licensing, and like at these board meetings, matter of fact, I'm getting kind of tired of hearing it. Is all the computer trying to make it easier with licensing. We've worked on how can you go through the process quicker. Trust us, it's not just the licensees that get upset because it takes a long time. It costs us a lot of money to push all the paper until we can get that fixed. And we've been working, we've been working
Yes.
years to try to get the computer system fixed.
Yes.
We've been working years to try to get, credit cards and make it easier to go through licensing. So, we have about 4 or 5 efficiencies that we've been working very, very hard at trying to get. And yes, hopefully if they all fall in and, it all works out, we do have some cost-saving efficiency things that are coming down the pipe. But that doesn't prevent where we are today. And hopefully we can be like the accountancy board and in a couple years, all these efficiencies. Okay. So maybe it didn't work for them so well, but all these things will come together and we'll be in a better place and maybe we can take so know that efficiency is something that we work constantly with.
And maybe I guess if that's the case, that message hasn't been received by folks that I talk to. That folks that reach out to us asking what's going on with the board.
So
and
it probably
why
goes
are
to what
they doing this?
Maria's saying is that we need to be we better PR ourselves a little bit better.
But I think it's important for all of us to remember, that every organization has to deal with expenses and costs, and some costs
No
are
doubt.
out of our control.
Yes.
And it seems to me, Danny, that I recently got a notice that even California Pharmacists Association.
You are correct.
In
And
2019.
You are correct.
Increasing their dues by, I think it's $100.
And let me explain.
Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. But
Thank you very much, Alan.
yes, and I'll answer that by saying that CPHA took extraordinary steps throughout the entire year of 2018 of explaining why this increase was necessary and where it was going. That is the main difference in the comparison that you're making.
Well, no. I am not questioning whether or not CPA is efficient or inefficient. I belong to CPA, and I belonged to it for a long time, and I intend to continue belonging to it.
Thank you.
But the reality is that expenses are going up, whether you're CPHA or whether you're the California State Board of Pharmacy.
Right.
And there's only one real way. You can look for savings.
Right.
However, at the end of the day, usually you can't find enough savings to deal with your losses, and you have to look to increase your revenue. So we're both in the same bucket.
Right. I get that. And I guess my last point to that is there are other, perhaps not DCA boards, but there are other boards that seem to deal with the cost, the increase of living, just living in general, or doing their business with more, I don't want to keep using the word efficiency, but they keep doing it better, I guess, at least from a perception point. And so I'd like to make you guys aware that that's the perception right now. And I'm not arguing that whether increasing to happen or not. I know that. But what I'm saying is that if our licensees are going to pay more, what they are telling us is that they would like to see perhaps a better PR campaign or show where this money is going in a better manner.
Danny, I want to thank you for your comment. I think we got the message.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned to you, even since my presidency started in June, I also stated one of my goals is to increase efficiency. I run the business just like anybody else, so I hear the frustration, seeing the other rates, see how much expense we put in, like the fee increased, and we do. I work with all the board members. We're trying to look into increase the efficiency and try not to increase the fee for the licensee. But right now, we have an urge right now before we start to get to do anything. There's an urge. We have to take care of it. So I will take care of that in order to allow us the time. And you can see Albert, Debbie, Stan, we all work on the same page. I don't think any one of the board members here, they don't agree with what you said, okay? Even Maria came in here, Ricardo and me, Lippy, always work on the budget. Ellen thinks about the same, as well as Shirley who came in. They're in private business. All of these are business people. Mm-hmm. We cannot run into the red, okay? So I hear your point. We will work on it, improve efficiency every way, and we'll have to do a better job to explain to the public what we are doing. We'll get it right. So I think Ricardo will do a better job in communicating with every one of you. So he said okay. So let's take on that one, and then we'll see if we could keep our promise. How's that?
One more thing.
I just wanted to mention that you mentioned ABC and some of the other boards, they're more efficient. I've served on other boards also. They're not as dynamic as this one. This is the busiest board. And Victor's right. Most of us run corporations. Most of us run our businesses. I've never been pulled away so many days just to deal with pharmaceutical issues. It's a very, very busy board. And I'm willing to say it's one of the busiest ones in the state. Based on everything that's going on with opiates and so forth. So I think we're a lot different than the ones you're pointing out. Okay.
Well, Danny, one last thing is that I keep pushing is that, we try to compensate the pharmacists for those increases by offer those free CE. How much the pharmacists pay for each unit CE? And then the board right now offer at least 7 to 10 CE free CE unit. And how much money you guys saving each time? So you have to look at those things. We try to make not hard on everybody. We try to line up a little bit.
And one more important thing is this. One thing I strongly oppose is to have the inspector go out there and strike and find the pharmacist a lot of money. I would rather that you pay a little increase in fee than to see the inspector go out there and fine you guys so much in order to try to balance the budget.
Understand.
So that's one thing for sure. We're not going to do that. Okay.
I'm happy that's on the record.
More educational for the pharmacists to make sure that they're compliant instead of try and find them exceedingly. That's not our goal. I want to assure you that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Any other public comment? Hi. Good morning.
Has the board considered raising fees on pharmacy locations where companies have more than a certain number of locations?
But if each location is a license, there will be a license and pay the fee on that location.
Right, but if a company has more than, say, 25 pharmacies and enforcing regulations on those become more arduous for the board, I feel like it makes more sense to then increase the fee on them proportionally, so as not to then punish, as Mr. Lippy said, to be polite to the profession, not punish technicians, for example, who already have a hard time making ends meet because cost of living in our state is so high. For pharmacists,
so I think Let me just to kind of cut to the chase. You're suggesting that chains would pay more per location than an independent?
I think that's only fair.
And I guess when we do the analysis, we can look at that, but I'm thinking it's,
We treat taxes like that in the state and federally. I don't understand why we wouldn't do it for licensing.
well, so I think when we do the analysis, it's based on the work effort, not on the tax base.
Sure.
So I think the work effort, and I'll defer to Jenny, is maybe the same for chain versus independent, and perhaps with chain, because certain things are repeated, might actually make the chain easier. So I think we want to be careful going down that road.
One of the things that will happen during this evaluation of increasing fees, we have to go through and really look at everything. But generally, the goal is to set the fee at the cost it costs us to provide the service. So the cost there is going to be allocated across all pharmacies equally, because even though some of them are structured, sometimes it might be even less expensive for us
Sure.
to do a chain of 1,000 than to do 4 independents on a per cost basis. But our requirement is to not subsidize each other's, and that's part of the reason we're doing a fee audit, to make sure that it ties into the workload of providing the service.
But I don't think that's reflective of the type of income that a chain can generate versus an independent, considering that the chains double, triple dip in the system, and we're not allowed to do that.
Well, you're doing it to a degree on the ability to pay, and that isn't so much what we're looking at rather than the cost of the service.
Then it's not so equitable, is it?
Well, that's an economic concept, and we can spend a lot of time talking
But
about
this is an economic issue.
Well, it is for all of us.
No, I can't disagree. We should treat everybody the same. We should treat all the pharmacy. I mean, a lot of cases, I
Even
feel
though some
sometimes
pharmacies
that
double dip in the
sometimes the
system.
chain, I feel they have a little more preference. But I disagree with, I believe we treat all of them the same.
Because I don't think it's an issue to raise the pharmacist licensing fee. I think if we start to do it with technicians, it's already really hard to pay technicians what they should be paid because reimbursements have been so low. And it's hard to hire a good technician. And, if you do want to raise the fees on that, I think then we would need to look towards enforcement to allow pharmacies to have at least 2-3 technicians per location so that we could at least get generating more interest in becoming a pharmacy technician. But, looking at all pharmacies the same the reality is that that's not what it is. All pharmacies are not the same. And when you have an entire section of pharmacies that double, triple dip in the system and are making so much more profit, it doesn't make sense not to ask them to pay more.
All right, thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the public? If not, we have to call for the vote. All right, we have
Laura,
the
you
vote
trying
the
Laura's
vote by.
our attorney's running up here.
Well, not running, not running.
That was a run.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that the motion was really clear, that as I understand it, the motion is to begin the rulemaking process to set the fees at the maximum statutory range, along with pursuing a fee analysis.
Correct.
Okay.
The only change from the way it was written before, well, actually, is that we're raising all fees to the maximum instead of midpoint on the fees other than the sterile compounding.
Okay, so it's the motion that was prepared, but the board fees that are proposed are raising them all to the maximum.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, board members, everybody understand? Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor for this motion, please raise your hand. Unanimous? Okay, motion carried. Thank you, board members.
Mr. President? Yes. Can I just make one remark?
Yes,
And
Dan.
instead of young gentleman, community pharmacist who just spoke last, I would encourage you to come to the meetings, and when we're about to do the next fee assessment audit, I think that would be a good time for you to come and suggest what you just suggested, and with the hope that there will be some interest in that, and it will be reflected in the outcome of the audit. But I think, speaking personally, I think it's a valid point that should be pursued. So thank you. Well,
Oh.
not the rich. I mean, he's right. You've got 1,000 stores.
Right. Okay, the next item is for the petitioner reinstatement. Shall we take 5 minutes break before we start it? Let's take 5, okay, before we start. Thank you. The petitioner for reinstatement case, I just want to make another announcement that at the last board meeting, the board, we voted to appoint Ms. Ann Sodergren as the interim executive officer. In light of our executive officer going to be retiring at the end of the year, so Ann will pick up the position as interim and handle all the matters until we have found a permanent executive officer for the board. So currently we are taking applications, and me and Ellen shared with the 2 members on the search committee. If anybody have candidates you want to refer, please let us know, and then we could go and interview them. Okay, let's move on with the petitioner case. And here today we have our judge, Honorary Ms. Howard Cohen. Okay, Judge.
All right, good morning. We have several petitions being heard today. Before we go on the record in the first matter, I'm going to instruct everyone who has a petition that is going to be heard to listen to the instructions that I give in the first one. I won't repeat them. When you have your petition being heard, I'll ask you whether you heard them and understood them. All right. Let's call the first matter and let's go on the record. We are here in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Orlando Hernandez, case number 5238, OAH number 2018-120105. Today is December 14, 2018. It's 10:25 a.m. We are at 2300 Mickelson Drive in Irvine, California. My name is Howard Cohen. I'm an administrative law judge with the State Office of Administrative Hearings. I have been asked to sit with the Board of Pharmacy in this matter. Could I have the parties introduce themselves, please, starting with the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the Board, Deputy Attorney General Desiree Connors. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the Board. Deputy Attorney General Desiree Tollerners, appearing on behalf of the people of the State of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor and board members. My name is Ronald S. Marks. I'm an attorney, and I'm representing Orlando Hernandez, who is present.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me, on this first case, ask the board members to introduce themselves, please, starting on the far right.
Maria Serpa, professional member.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Shirley Kim, public member.
Alan Shad, professional member.
Greg Lippy, public member.
Victor Law, professional licensee.
Debbie Veal, professional licensee.
Stan Weiser, professional member.
Albert Wong, professional member.
Thank you very much. Okay, there being a quorum of the board, we will proceed. The way we're going to do this is the Deputy Attorney General will present first. Then the petitioner may testify. If the Deputy Attorney General has any questions for the petitioner, she will ask them then, followed by any questions from the board, at which time we will hear any brief closing that you wish to make, and I will ask the Deputy Attorney General to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a preliminary matter, I would like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with accompanying documents. I would also like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 2 the petitioner's agreement to electronic recording of hearing. The board members and petitioner have already been provided a set of the same document.
Thank you. Any objection? Those are marked as Exhibits 1 and 2. Any objection to my admitting those?
Your Honor, and I discussed this with Deputy Attorney General. There is one part of the petition package that doesn't belong to it. It's the last few pages that seem to relate to conversation, electrical conversations, emails, related to another case, and it's at the end of the package. I'd ask that be excluded.
How many pages exactly?
It's four pages.
Ms. Tulliners, do you know which pages are being referred to?
It appears to be an email exchange between a representative of the board and an outside counsel on another matter, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Any objection to having those removed from the packet?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. With those 4 pages being removed, do you have any objection, counsel, to Exhibits 1 and 2 being admitted?
No objection.
All right. Thank you. Then Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. Does the petitioner have any documents that are not already in the petition package that the petitioner is going to want the board to consider?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have copies of those now for the board?
I don't have as many as the board members on the panel here, but it's a letter that I had submitted to Ms. Kemp on December 1st, November 1st.
November 1st?
And didn't make it into the packet, even though November 7th my stipulation to electronic recording did. It's a letter from character letter from Alexis Torres, attorney at law, dated October 24th, 2018. I can do one of two things. I have an original, which I can admit, and also read into the record the letter, which is very brief. I don't have enough copies for the entire panel. I have the one that I gave to Ms. Tulliner, and I have the original and 3 copies.
And that is not in the board's packet? Okay. All right. Why don't you bring up right now all the original and all the copies except for the copy that Ms. Tulliner's has. Thank you very much. That will be made part. All right. The original will be made part of the packet and will be marked as Exhibit 3, and copies will be shared by the board during their deliberations.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any objection to my admitting Exhibit 3?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I approach to mark 1 and 2?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, Ms. Tulliners, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now I would like to give a very brief summary of the history of this case. On January 21st, 2014, a board inspector inspected Petitioner's Pharmacy in Pasadena, California, and found that he had violated compounding regulations by batch producing drugs that were to be used to compound medication without performing sterility and pyrogen tests. As a result of these conditions, the drugs that were compounded did not conform with required quality and strength standards and tests. The inspector also found record-keeping violations on approximately 24 compounded medications. On February 26, 2015, the board filed an allegation alleging 3 causes for discipline for violations of compounding requirements, non-conforming compound drugs, and violations of record-keeping requirements. In a decision effective December 4, 2015, following a stipulated settlement executed August 19, 2015, Petitioner's pharmacist license and sterile compounding permit were placed on probation for 5 years. Petitioner has repaid the board's costs of approximately $5,500 and completed 2 of the 3 years of remedial education that were required, with proof of completion of the 3rd year required by December 3rd of this year. During the period of probation, The board filed an additional accusation on October 10th, 2016, which was dismissed by the board effective February 22nd, 2018, following a hearing. Petitioner has surrendered his sterile compounding permit on March 6, 2017. Petitioner was cited twice during the period of his probation, once on March 27, 2018, for failing to comply with his probation when he supervised a registered intern when she compounded drug products. Petitioner paid the $5,000 fine on April 16, 2018. The second citation was on May 23, 2018, for failure to complete an analysis of a compounded drug preparation at least annually, and for failure to ensure a compounded product was tested to ensure integrity, potency, quality, and labeled strength on at least an annual basis. Petitioner paid the $1,500 fine on that citation on June 13, 2018. On July 24, 2018, petitioner filed this petition for early termination of probation. And I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless his counsel would like to make an opening statement.
Counsel?
Thank you. We are here, ladies and gentlemen of the board, to request that the 5-year probation of Mr. Hernandez be terminated after 3 years, which has elapsed. The probation resulted from an accusation that related to the pharmacy's sterile compounding license and Mr. Hernandez's PIC. What's relevant is in March of last year, Mr. Hernandez voluntarily surrendered the pharmacy's sterile compounding license, and the surrender document is in your packet. The 5-year probation was as a result, as Ms. Tullinger indicated, of a settlement of an accusation that was filed on February 16, 2015. I was Mr. Hernandez's attorney at that time, and I've negotiated numerous settlements over the past 45 years with the board. And based upon my experience, I can say that, in my opinion, that a 3-year term of probation, which has expired, was more reasonable in this case than a 5 years. And I believe it would have been accepted by the board. But Mr. Hernandez did not want to negotiate and accepted the staff's initial offer of a 5-year probation. As I indicated, a 3-year probation would now be ended. Just to put some of the statements that Ms. Tollinger indicated in context, the probation was based on an inspection in which it was found that on 3 dates in 2013, the pharmacy did not perform sterility and pyrogen tests on 2 drugs, which were used to compound 9 products, and omitted the manufacturer's name, lot number, and expiration date regarding several compounded products in the compounding records. There was no allegation that any compounded drug was found to be unsterile or that any patient was adversely affected. So the matter involved 2 drugs on 3 dates and record-keeping deficiencies. Also relevant is that the inspection did not find any violations in the general prescription area of the pharmacy, which was and still is the principal business of the pharmacy. The allegation related solely to the pharmacy's sterile compounding license and Mr. Hernandez as PIC of the pharmacy. And as I pointed out, Mr. Hernandez no longer does sterile compounding. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the pharmacy has been owned and operated by Mr. Hernandez since 1986, and he has been licensed since January 10th, 1983. So he's coming up to 36 years as a pharmacist in California. It's very important for the board to consider the letter and report from Charles Stark. He's the pharmacy's probation monitor, and it's in your packet. In the letter and report, he refers to the fact that he's submitted 12 probation reports on the pharmacy, and that Dr. Stark concludes It is my opinion that Pharmacist Hernandez and his staff are currently providing services to patients in a responsible and professional manner that will not pose harm to patients or staff. I am comfortable with endorsing an early termination of the probation placed on Pharmacist Hernandez. I would submit that Mr. Stark has more knowledge about the pharmacy's activities and conformance with the law than just about anyone, given his eminent qualifications and his repeated inspection and survey of the pharmacy. You also have a letter from Dr. Pachorek, who's a fellow of internal medicine, and that's in your packet. And his letter, he states that he has had a professional relationship with Mr. Hernandez for 30 years. And Mr. Hernandez, I want to emphasize that 30 years, and that Mr. Hernandez assists him in his patient care with respect to therapeutics and medications, including compounding specialized medical formulas. He also states that his patients consult with Mr. Hernandez frequently regarding their medications. And just briefly, the second accusation mentioned by Ms. Tollinger that resulted in dismissal, it concerned a staff pharmacist, not Mr. Hernandez, who dispensed the drug for a gastrointestinal disorder pursuant to a prescription by a physician, but the drug could only be dispensed if the patient was enrolled in an expanded access program, and this patient was awaiting enrollment. This pharmacist, young pharmacist, was Cindy Chang, who was named in the accusation. She was a young pharmacist who was not aware of the restriction. She dispensed it with 3 refills to just 1 patient. There was no harm to the patient. Ms. Hernandez was not involved in the dispensing and was included in the accusation in the sole capacity of the pharmacist in charge. And I invite your attention to page 9 of paragraph 12 of the decision for more specific details, so I don't have to spend time on a dismissed accusation.
And counsel, I please assume that the entire board has read the entire packet and is very familiar with everything in it.
Thank you. I'd like to have Mr. Hernandez testify as to why he believes that his probation should be terminated and answer any questions that the board may have. And with that, believe that would be conclusion of my opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. State your name.
Orlando Hernandez.
Okay. I'll allow you to testify at this time. Did you wish to ask questions or just have your client testify?
I believe it would be if Your Honor allows him to testify on a narrative basis.
All right. A brief narrative will be permitted, and then Ms. Tollinger will have questions for you.
Correct. When the inspection came on January 2014, let it be known that I have been compounding for 29 years. Unblemished records. The pharmacist in charge of the lab that I had, a young pharmacist, had been there for over a year. The first thing I always told any of the pharmacy that came to work for me at the lab was, please, I'm going to allow you 1 month to read the law and to make sure that everything we do here is lawful and we comply with the law. It just so happened that 2 batches. I had at that time compounded probably over 50,000 compounded medications. And that is the case in which we are here. 2 prescriptions to Baja, I never harmed anyone. My pharmacy, I have only done job and comply with the law. I've been a pharmacy for 36 years. And again, there was someone in charge, but I'm here because I was the PIC and the pharmacist in charge. I had to take responsibility of what happened at the pharmacy. The other 24 prescriptions that they did not have the proper entry of the manufacturer.
I'm going to interrupt you. The purpose of this hearing is not to retry the case for which you were put on probation, but to hear reasons why your probation should terminate early. Do you have anything to add to what's in the packet on that?
No.
Okay, then Ms. Tulliners, you may ask your questions.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hernandez.
Good morning.
If your probation is terminated early, what extent of practice do you plan to maintain in the future?
I'm going to be 77 years old, and I hope to retire this coming year. I've been doing the same thing for 36 years, complying with the law, trying to do the best for the community, being helpful to everyone that comes to the pharmacy, and that's what I try to, and I will continue to do until I retire.
Do you understand the roles of a PIC in the pharmacy practice?
Well, after 36 years, yes, I do.
And you were mentioning something that may have alluded that you might be blaming somebody who had been there for a year for the errors that occurred?
I do not blame anyone, no.
So you do take responsibility for...
Totally.
Why do you want to terminate your probation early?
Because to me, that was excessive. And for any... since I'm retiring, I might also consider to sell the pharmacy, my business, and it seems to me that'll be something that there'll be no necessary to talk about with anyone who may want to buy or probation of something that is already 4 years old, and to me, that was already taken care of for some time. I did everything I was asked for.
Have you taken any continuing education in...
Of course, all of
One
them.
moment. Let her finish her question before you begin your answer. Thank you. The court reporter can only take down one person at a time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have you taken any continuing education in the roles of a PIC?
Yes, I have.
Do you know about how many hours?
I think it's 30 plus 30 hours.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Speak into the microphone.
Yeah, 30 or more hours. Yeah.
And that's all in the area of PIC?
Absolutely, and compounding, because I do compounding.
And you surrendered the sterile compounding permit. Do you have any intentions of reapplying for it if your probation is terminated?
Not at all. Oh.
That's all the questions I have at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask the board members if they have any questions. We'll start on the far right this time.
Thank you. This is Maria Serpa, a professional member. Question for Mr. Hernandez. Regarding to a comment that's in the letter from Dr. Stark, it comments that you no longer are providing sterile compounding practices at your pharmacy, but you are doing hazardous substance compounding. I just wanted to relate to us what that incorporates, hazardous substance compounding.
Correct. As is now a requirement, any compound in which the product is a hormone or and the NIOSH list. There are certain products that if we need to compound using them, we have to have a room in which is only to compound hazardous drugs. I built that room, is in compliance, completely new, and I still do compounding of hazardous drugs.
A follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
So this is limited then to oral and topicals? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up to speak with us. I just wanted to commend you in all the good years you didn't have any problems. That's a lot. Any big questions? That was it.
Okay. All right. Make sure you state your name.
Greg Lippy, public member. Have a question. In May of this year, you received a citation, and the citation was for failure to complete an analysis of a compounded drug preparation, at least annually, and failure to ensure a compounded product was tested to ensure integrity, potency, quality, and labeled strength on at least an annual basis. You got the citation, you paid the fine, but the Stark letter says that he was evaluating you over a year and kind of gave you a clean bill of health. His letter was issued in August of 18, and the citation was issued during that period of time. So I'm a little concerned that the probation, that this happened during the probation period, and we're now being asked to terminate probation early, when it appears that not all lessons have been learned. What might you say about that?
I had not been in charge of the lab for many years. I always had a pharmacist that came in here, was in charge of the lab. I always was the one in charge of teaching them what to do, the law, the requirements. When the pharmacist, the latest pharmacist that I had, when the 5238 case left, she did not remind or knew that we thought that by surrendering the license, the sterile license, that was it. There was no, I was unaware of the fact that one compound had to be sent to the testing. And that was the error in which I committed, that I did not know that there was one product had to be sent. The pharmacy that left the lab did not inform me of it. And since I had not been in charge of the lab for many, many years, over 10 years, because I always had a pharmacist there in charge of the lab, I was, that's what happened.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Hernandez. My name is Victor Law. First, I'd like to thank you for coming here to testify. But I want to ask you something. Part of the condition of the probation when licensing is put under is you have to obey all laws. So just want to bring you back to the citation on the supervising of the intern. How does it come about that you have that violation?
That person had taken the exam as a pharmacist there was a pharmacist that I had taken the pharmacy board exam, and she applied for the job of the pharmacy to be in the lab. She loved compounding. She said, I love compounding, I want to be in. So the pharmacist responsible, in charge of the lab at that time, asked me, why don't we bring her to start practicing in the lab? Because I had a plan to go to visit my parents in another country in November, and she told me she already went to the board. She is a pharmacist. Why don't you bring her, and we start teaching her in a way that, you know, by the time you go, in a few months, we would have her. And I said, fine. I think it's a good thing to bring her in, even when she was the one teaching her the compounding things. But since I'm the one pharmacist in charge, I was charged that I was teaching, but she was the one teaching her, the other pharmacist. But I'm the pharmacist in charge.
Well, but
that
you know,
was,
even an applicant has applied, or an applicant has taken the CPJA exam, doesn't mean that they are already a pharmacist. You have to know that you have to pass the board until you see the license post on the website that they are a pharmacist. Otherwise, they're still an intern, right?
I agree.
So you think it's your responsibility to make
correct.
sure
That is correct.
the person is a pharmacist first?
That is correct. And then we thought that was imminent, that she would be, because she looked so intelligent and ready to go to the board. And if I may say, Dr. Lowe, I was not totally aware, to tell you the truth, that the supervision I could not, because I was tainted for 2 prescriptions, or I was tainted as not being able to teach something that I had done all my life.
Well, I understand that, but you have to put that part aside, and once you obey you agree to the terms of your probation, then you have to abide by all the rules and regulations on your probations, right?
That is correct.
So in order for us to consider your early termination, we have to see during this period of time whether you are fully compliant, to convince us that will be okay for the protection of the consumers and everybody else. Then make sure that you would not violate any more terms of your probation in order to move forward.
Is there a question?
Right? Okay, so.
Any further questions?
That's it,
on
no
my
further
left?
question, yeah.
Go ahead, state your name.
Hi, Debbie Veal. Just a couple questions. So the first one is, I just want to clarify, you are the PIC. You keep talking about someone else is in charge of the lab, but you're PIC of the whole pharmacy, including the lab.
That is correct.
Okay. So when, in the 2 recent citations that my colleagues have asked you about, you've kind of pointed to it was somebody else that was kind of made the oopsie, the error, but really, you're the PIC.
Correct.
So it's your error.
Correct.
Okay. So with that going back, so failure to complete the analysis of the compound, the citation in May, how have you, Mr. Lippy asked, how have you fixed that?
Simply. I immediately sent the sample. In fact, I already sent another sample for the next year, which is it's the simplest thing in the world. I've been doing this for 30-some years. I've been doing this since 1985. So do I know what to do? Do I know what the protection? I have never damaged anyone. I never injured anyone. I like to comply with the law. And that's exactly what I've been wanting to do. Immediately I knew, oh, do I have to send one? Of course I sent it. As soon as the inspector says, but you have to send one, good enough, I'll send it. And I already sent another one ahead of time.
So are you stating that you thought this sample for that drug had been sent, but the inspector was pointing out it hadn't been? So there was a lapse? Is that what happened?
No. What happened was I was supposed to send one sample a year in a year.
Got it.
And for some reason, since I had not been in charge of the lab for so many years, because I always had other pharmacists.
But you're still the PIC, so you are actually in charge.
Correct. And then I did, and then I just sent the sample, and the sample came back fine, and then that's it.
So the year had lapsed. You're saying that you had sent a sample in a prior year, it's just that that year had lapsed.
A year have lapsed.
Okay.
Since one sample had not been sent.
So my question is, how have you fixed that so that you don't have a lapse again?
By knowing, because remember, I had not been in charge of the lab for many, many years.
But once again, you're the PIC.
Correct.
So you are in charge.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just let him answer.
Okay.
How have you fixed that was the question.
How had I fixed it? By knowing that when I surrendered the sterile license, and now we are not have a sterile license, but we have the regular compounding, that I have to send one sample a year.
So do you have some sort of a record so that you know, boop, I sent it for this year?
That is correct. Yes,
And you control that record?
I do.
And then just clarify for me with the intern. It sounded like you knew that she was an intern, that she did not have a license. Is that correct?
I knew that she had went to the board,
Yeah.
took the exam, and she wanted to come to work, and we started teaching her the art of compounding, thinking that in just in a few months she would get the results, and she would be then a pharmacist on the lab.
Okay, but my question is, but you knew that she was not a pharmacist?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, that she had taken the exam, but there was not. But to tell you the truth, and nothing but the truth, I did not know at that moment that in reality, the pharmacist in charge, that was in the lab, was the one teaching her the art of compounding. I was just overlooking what they were doing. As someone who's been there for so many years. But, and that's how it happened.
I just have one more question. So, when the inspector was there, you were the pharmacist that was on duty, and the other pharmacist who helps you supervise in the lab was not there. Is that why you were considered supervising her?
That is correct.
So did you correct that situation so her schedule aligned with the pharmacist who could supervise her and not align with your schedule?
Well, let's put it this way. Both of them were gone. Both of them. They were so afraid, again, to be in a lab that both of them quit. So there, in fact, one of them, the pharmacist, says, I don't want to be a pharmacist anymore. And her life was ruined. The license, she is not a pharmacist any longer.
Okay, but I guess my question is, so to make sure you prevent that from happening again, I mean, as the pharmacist in charge, are you monitoring a schedule to make sure that supervision is appropriate in your pharmacy?
Well, I do now, and again, they were gone in the next week. They were both gone.
I understand that, but, so 3 weeks later, as pharmacist in charge, have you made sure that you have a schedule and a plan so that you don't have a supervision problem again?
Of course, there have none since then. I've been the only pharmacist.
Okay. Thank you very much for your question, your answers.
I'm not quite sure who I should ask this.
State your name, please.
Beg your pardon?
State your name.
Hi, my name is Stan Weiser. I'm a professional member. I'm a licensed pharmacist. This refers to Ronald Marks, and not Ronald Marks, to this Charles Stark. And I'll start with the letter from Attorney Marks, who refers.
I need you to speak into the microphone, please. I'm having.
I'll say.
Move the mic, yeah.
Okay, how's that?
That's great.
All right, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Thank you.
And so anyway, in the letter that Attorney Marks writes, he refers to the recommendations, including those of Charles Stark. And in the letter that Mr. Stark wrote, dated August 19th, he says, "I have noted the following significant changes at all, and the attentiveness to regulatory requirements that are applicable in California Code of Regulations 21, et cetera, and the Business and Professional Code." And so on August 22nd, you referred to the letter written by Mr. Stark on August 19th, who says everything is really in good shape, and and everything is being taken care of nicely. And this is in spite of the fact that in March and where am I? March and in May, there were failures with regards to meeting the requirements of regulations. So I guess my question is, Mr. Stark, where did he come from, and who hires him? Is that somebody who's recommended by the board, or I mean, we're using him as a credible expert, yet it seems as though his foot slipped off the clutch twice with regards to those two issues. I don't know who to ask.
Well, it's a hard question to answer. You're implying that Dr. Stark overlooked those citations.
Counsel, you're not testifying now.
No.
I
thought that Mr. Weiser's question was directed to whoever could answer that question.
Well, let's stick with petitioner, who is under oath. Do you know who hired Dr. Stark to look over your lab?
Of course, the board asked for someone who can be that person, and he applied for it. It was submitted to the board, and the board approved it, approved him as being the one.
If I could add one thing, Your Honor.
No, let's stick with testimony at this time. Any other questions?
No. Thank you.
Albert Wong, professional member. I have no question.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further questions from you, Ms. Tellenders?
I just wanted to clarify whether you in fact...
Turn your mic on.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez, to clarify whether you in fact actually know whether Mr. Stark is an employee of the board or a consultant.
To me, he's a consultant. He's not an employee of the board.
Thank you. No more questions.
All right. Is there anything further you wish to say, Ms. Tellenders?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further, Ms. Marks?
Yes, Your Honor, just based upon Mr. Weiser's
Microphone.
question.
Microphone.
Microphone, please.
Yes. The procedure is that the licensee recommends appropriate monitors to the board for approval. And in this case, as I recall, it was difficult because the condition of probation was that the monitor also had to have expertise in sterile compounding, and it was not that easy to find somebody who had that expertise that would qualify for the board. And as I recall, he wasn't the first proposal to the board. But based upon Dr. Stark's CV, which the board members have in the packet, he's eminently qualified. If Dr. Stark were here, obviously he could answer the question of Mr. Weiser as to why those particular violations were perhaps taken into consideration, which did not change his opinion that the 3-year probation would be, the termination of the 3-year probation would not affect the public's health or welfare.
Thank you very much. Do the people submit at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Submitted.
Thank you. The record is closed. Let's go off the record.
Okay. Which one is the next case, Your Honor?
I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again soon.
The next case is Philip Olsen. Would you step up to the table?
Why don't we take a 5-minute break before we move on to the next case? Okay, thank you. Now we're back into session. All right, Your Honor, Howard Cohen.
All right, let's go on the record in the matter of the petition of Philip Werner Olsen for early termination of probation before the Board of Pharmacy, case number 5043, OAH number 2018-120112. Today is December 14, 2018. It is 11:15 a.m. We are at 2300 Mickelson Drive in Irvine, California. My name is Howard Cohen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to conduct this hearing for the Board of Pharmacy. Could I have the parties state their names, please?
Good morning again, Your Honor, members of the board. Desiree Tolliners, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Good morning. Your name?
Philip Olsen.
Good morning. Did you hear the instructions that I gave in the first hearing?
I did.
And you understood them?
Yes.
Okay. And let me reiterate that, first of all, the subject of these hearings is not the underlying discipline, but the reasons for the relief you're asking in your petition, in this case, early termination of probation. And again, also please assume that the board members, a quorum of whom are present, have read everything in the packet. All right, Ms. Tolliners.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with accompanying documents. And I would also like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 2 the agreement to electronic recording of hearing by petitioner. The board members and petitioner have already been provided a copy of the same set of exhibits.
Okay, and you may approach. Thank you. Those documents are marked respectively as Exhibits 1 and Exhibit 2. Do you have any objection to the board receiving these in evidence?
No.
Okay, they are admitted. Did you have any documents in addition to the entire packet that you wish the board to consider?
I do not.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Tolliners, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, I would like to give a brief summary of the history of this case. Petitioner was licensed as a pharmacist in 1987. Prior to his licensure, he had a history of alcoholism, which culminated at that time in a residential treatment program in 1985. After his licensure in 1987, he worked professionally, and unfortunately in the year 2000, he relapsed into alcoholism and drank alcohol in a manner and to an extent that was dangerous to himself and others for a period of 13 years until 2013. Over time, his drinking led him to the use of controlled substances, including but not limited to lorazepam and hydrocodone, which he diverted from his employer between April of 2012 and April of 2013 by entering false information into the Pyxis where he worked. He used these controlled substances without a prescription. As a result, on April 5th, 2014, the board filed an accusation against petitioner alleging 3 causes for discipline: dangerous use of drugs, violation of drug laws, and moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, and deceit. In a decision effective October 15, 2014, following a stipulated settlement which petitioner executed on September 5, 2014, petitioner's pharmacist license was suspended for 120 days and placed on probation for a period of 5 years. Petitioner has repaid the board's cost of $5,000. He has completed the required ethics course, and he has completed 64 hours per year of community service. And as of March 16th of this year, he completed the pharmacist recovery program. On August 12th of this year, petitioner filed his petition for early termination of probation, which is before you today. And I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless he would like to make an opening statement.
Okay. Just so that you know, if you make an opening statement, the board can't consider that as evidence because you're not under oath. Do you wish to testify at this time?
I have a short narrative I'd like to share.
All right. Why don't we put you under oath? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. State your full name.
Philip Olsen.
Okay. You may proceed.
My name is Philip Olsen, and I'm a pharmacist and a person in long-term recovery. Thank you for this opportunity for me to give this short narrative. What that means is, as a person in long-term recovery, I've been free of alcohol or drugs for 5 years and 8 months, since April of 2013. I've been working a program of recovery which has been confirmed with random testing from April 2013 to the present. My entry into the PRP program, Maximus, began after I self-reported with a phone call to the state board in April of 2013. The 5-year terms of my probation started in October of 2014, 1 year and 3 months following the official start date of Maximus. I had been in recovery for over a year when my probation started, and probation ends next October 2019, 10 months from now. My petition is a request for early termination of probation, and it details my history and what I have done for corrective measures. The important question at this point is what has changed since 2013. I have embraced recovery without reservation. It has not been a struggle for me for many years, and it is simply a part of who I am. My commitment is a personal one beyond coercion, and it is firm regardless of circumstances. It will continue past probation and past my working years because it has enlarged my life in countless ways. I am very involved in 12-step recovery, and I regularly attend meetings. I have been a member of IDAA, International Doctors in Alcoholics Anonymous, since 2013 when I attended my first of the annual International IDAA meetings, which for me was truly a life-changing experience. This was my first experience of identifying with other doctorate-level individuals in healthcare who are also in recovery from the disease of addiction. Since then, I have attended 3 more annual IDAA meetings as well as 2 Western States affiliate meetings in California, in addition to our local meetings. This past August, I was co-registrar for the International IDAA conference held in Reno, Nevada. I started back to work at a long-term care pharmacy in Northern California in October of 2014, and I have been safely practicing pharmacy for the last 4 years and 2 months. My current position as clinical coordinator gives me great satisfaction as I've been able to enhance patient care using skills from my 30 years of hospital experience in the long-term care setting, and, an area of increasing patient acuity. In addition, I've had opportunities for teaching, an activity that I have been involved with throughout my career. I'm grateful for the privilege of being able to continue to work in a profession that has given me such satisfaction over the years. My written answers in the petition are very thorough, and they detail where I am in my recovery, and how I have accepted responsibility for my actions. Included are 4 letters of support, 2 from my current employers, 1 from my program sponsor, and 1 from an addiction specialist who has known me for 5.5 years. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tulliners, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Olsen, can you tell the board to what extent you were impaired when you were working in the profession for those 13 years after you were licensed?
For the 13 years after I was initially licensed?
Yes, when you worked for 13 years and then you relapsed.
Oh, okay.
So when you were in relapse, what was the extent of your drinking problem?
I was not impaired during work for the most part. I was an evening drinker. Towards the end, I utilized Norco in the afternoon as to help with the discomfort of withdrawal in the afternoons.
Withdraw from drinking?
Yes.
And when you say for the most part, what do you mean by that? That you weren't impaired on the job?
For the 13 years that you mentioned. Yeah.
Were there
and I was not a daytime drinker.
Were there any period of time when you were working in the profession that you were on duty and impaired?
Yes.
How many times do you think that happened?
I would say in that period of time, probably a few dozen.
Why did you relapse while you were licensed when you had been through a treatment program before you were licensed?
The treatment program I was originally in was not very comprehensive, and after 13 years of sobriety, I had drifted away from a program of recovery and lost a kind of a grip around the safety strategies that we have in recovery to avoid a relapse. In addition, circumstances in my life were increasing pressures, and a divorce, a job change, a move at the same time. Those kinds of things precipitated a drift back to poor coping strategies.
And what is your plan to prevent relapse in the future?
I have a different understanding this time around. The treatment facility I went to this time around was very comprehensive. I did a lot of exploration about myself, about the causes and conditions. I have a much better understanding of my risks and my vulnerabilities, such that self-care will be better, and I will allow myself to be in this situation where I can drift into the danger zone. And I have a support community that I'm actively involved with. I have a sponsor, and working a 12-step recovery program much more vigorously now.
How many times have you worked the program?
This would be how many times?
The 12 steps.
Well, this is ongoing, but I guess an answer to that might be twice.
Are you on a certain step now?
No, I've completed this. Step 12 is basically a strategy for daily living.
So you just maintain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
What type of practice do you want to maintain after your probation's over?
I'm happy in my current position, but I would like the opportunity to have, if an opportunity comes up, possibly moving to another position. I had 30 years in hospital pharmacy, currently in long-term care. But if a new position should open up, otherwise I would be open to it. Today I'm not looking for a new job.
Why do you want to terminate your probation earlier? You mentioned that you only have 10 months left anyway.
Yes. Looking for new opportunities is difficult in probation. If something should come up, I would be more prepared to possibly explore new opportunities. And at my age, it's, it would open my horizon of opportunity. Right now, it's closed to some degree. In addition, the requirements, the monitoring requirements, which I've been under for 5 years and 8 months, basically preclude international travel. I have not had an opportunity to meet my in-laws who are overseas at this point, so I would like to start planning for that opportunity.
I have no more questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Do any of the board members have any questions? Let's start on my left this time. Far left.
My mic good? Can you hear me?
State your name.
I'm Stan Weiser, and I'm a licensed member of the board. It's just a remark, and it refers to your adding this personal reflections on recovery. And I just want you to know I was both moved and educated by it, and I think it was important for me that this be in your packet. So I want to thank you for including it. I want to congratulate you on your sobriety and the effort you have made to have a life without alcohol. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Albert Wong, professional member. I didn't catch it. How long you been without alcohol?
5 years.
5 years?
Over 5 years.
No, very good. Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Victor Law, professional member. So Dr. Olsen, thank you for coming in today. Just want to ask you, you mentioned that before it was going through the divorce that caused you the relapse. So how's the social life right now?
I'm remarried. I've been married 5 years with a woman I've been with for 12 years.
Okay. Do you have any children?
No.
Do you still go to church?
I like the question. It suggests in recovery, the spirituality is important, and it's definitely an important part of my program. And I have attended church with my wife. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay. And then how often do you still have to attend AA or the other Maximus meetings?
Yeah, I'm out of Maximus as of March of this year. That's completed. That was almost 5-year commitment. So there's currently no requirement for meeting signatures or anything. So
okay. So
yeah.
and the testing?
Testing is a state board requirement, and that's ongoing.
Once a week or once a month?
It appears to be 3 times a month.
3 times a month?
Yeah.
Have they all been good?
For 5 years, and I have not had a single a bad test. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Lippy, public member. What is your support system beyond AA to prevent life's circumstances from throwing you back into or out of recovery?
I would say a wonderful wife who's so supportive of me, who was with me before and is still there. It's I get a lot of strength from that, and I'm really grateful for that relationship. I think for me it's on a daily basis. I've had this has really opened up a new world for me in terms of self-exploration. So outside of AA, I can say my readings. I've been just very interested in exploring a new outlook on life, and part of that is daily readings and my exercise, just a more balanced lifestyle, good self-care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No question.
No question.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Pelliners?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm always interested in people who success on the recovery, see if they could help out the others to recover. So you have any idea, how to, help other people?
That's something I've been very involved with in IDAA. I discovered this organization that was primarily physicians, but is open to all doctorate level. And I've been, as I mentioned, I've been to six meetings where we have the opportunity to meet newcomers, and we work with them and help them a lot. So it's very satisfying to try to help people. I've often wondered what pharmacy could do better in terms of making this, helping with the stigma around addiction, because it's there. We know that 6 to 10% of people have, some kind of alcohol use disorder, and I think that there's a great need in pharmacy, and very interested in what this profession might be able to do in terms of, maybe more CE opportunities or more exposure or some kind of, education in school around it, because it's definitely prevalent.
And how about, with the opioid epidemic out there, with a lot of narcotic out there, with all this diversion we have, you have any suggestion how we prevent, the diversion in the future?
Well, accountability. I mean, I think just good structured systems in the hospitals are important, where you have maybe multiple accountability for medications. It's access. I mean, we see the problems with anesthesiologists as well is a big problem, and it's usually around access to medications. So, if you're asking me about diversion, I really believe that highly accountable systems are better. So whatever that structure needs to be robust.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No further.
Did you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, then with that, the matter is submitted. The record is closed. Let's go off the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. We are.
Okay. All right.
Why don't you
We'll
open a new file and,
we can take a 5 minutes break.
Take a 5 minute. We're gonna before lunch. We're gonna hear. Petitions for early termination of probation of Complete Infusion Care and Ali Pormola before the Board of Pharmacy, case number 4907, OAH case numbers 2018-120123 and 2018-120124. Today is December 14, 2018. It is now 11:43 a.m. My name is Howard Cohen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I have been assigned to conduct this hearing for the Board of Pharmacy. We are at 2300 Mickelson Drive in Irvine, California. Could I have the parties state their appearances, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. Deputy Attorney General Desiree Tolliners, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor, and members of the board. My name is Michael Houski, and I am counsel for Complete Infusion Care, and I'm here with the pharmacist in charge, or PAC, for Complete Infusion Care, Dr. Avidas Kojayan, and Dr. Ali Permola is also here.
Thank you. Good morning. And it's my understanding, Ms. Tolliners and Mr. Houski, these two matters, two OAH matters and two separate petitions are being considered together for hearing at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Tolliners, you had no objection to the board issuing a single decision covering both petitions, correct?
No, I do not.
Okay, good. Then that's how the board will proceed. And you may begin. First, let me make sure, Mr. Houski, you heard the instructions in the earlier.
I did, Your Honor.
And you understood them?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms. Tolleners.
Thank you. I would first like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packets in both cases with the accompanying documents for each of these petitions. And I'd also like to mark and identify the Exhibit 2, the agreements to electronic recording of the hearing. The board members and petitioners have already been provided with copies of the same set of exhibits, which are in 2 very large binders.
All right, the 2 petition packets are marked collectively as Exhibit 1. And the 2 agreements to electronic recording are marked collectively as Exhibit 2. Before we went on the record, Mr. Houski informed me that he had some additional documents. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And those consist of a cover letter and
Okay, I can
compliance
quickly
documents?
recite the context.
Thank you very much.
I have a supplemental packet to give to the board, which contains the July 2018 quarterly report of CIC, which was submitted to the board after the petition was submitted. I have the October 18th quarterly report for CIC. I have the October 2018 quarterly report for Dr. Ali Permola, which was submitted to the board after the petition. I have a August 23rd, 2018 letter showing that CIC made payment to the board in the amount of $242 for monitoring costs, which is a condition of probation. I have a letter dated November 8th, 2018, with a letter making a payment to the BOP in the amount of $363 for Dr. Permola's probation monitoring cost. I also have a February 19th, 2018 letter from Avitas Kojayan to Anna Kalenter regarding something she requested during her February 13th, 2018 letter, which was not in the prior packet. I have a copy of a November 2nd, 2018 inspection report, which was conducted at CIC by BOP Inspector Trang Song, Farm D. And I have a copy of a November 6, 2018 inspection report for the inspection at CIC, which was conducted by Samin Samari.
Thank you. And Ms.
May-
Tolleners,
may
you have
I-
a copy. One moment.
Sorry.
Ms. Tolleners, you have a copy of these documents?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay, you may approach.
May I approach?
Please. Thank you. Those documents will be marked as Exhibit 3 collectively. And let the record reflect, council is handing those documents to the individual board members. All right, you wish to move these Exhibit 3 into evidence?
I would like to move Exhibit 3 into evidence at this time.
Any objection, Ms. Tolleners?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 3 is admitted. Okay, Ms. Tolleners.
Thank you. I'm going to try and do a summary of both cases. The facts are the same for both, but the discipline that follows is a little different. The board inspected the pharmacy on October 16 of 2012, and that inspection revealed multiple violations.
And again, everybody, please make your cell phone silent. You may continue.
I'm going to abbreviate Complete Infusion Care as CIC. Petitioner CIC did not have training records of demonstrated competencies for pharmacy personnel at that time. The compounding records dated January 23rd of 2012 and June 7 of 2012 for 2 prescriptions for 1 patient did not have the process or procedure used to prepare and compound on the compound sheet under mix instructions. The same compounding records for these two prescriptions did not document the equipment that was used in the compounding on the compound sheet. The inspection also found that on March 8, 2012, April 9, 2012, and May 25, 2012, the pharmacy dispensed 3 compound prescriptions with expiration dates that were 6 days, and 3 days course after preparation for the 3 prescriptions. The manufacturer's beyond use date was within 24 hours of the reconstitution of the drug. Petitioner CIC did not have extended stability and potency data at the time of the prescriptions when they were dispensed. Petitioner CIC and Petitioner Pormola dispensed these 3 prescriptions to a patient without first clarifying the dose of the prescriptions with the prescriber. The prescriptions were written incorrectly and they had incorrectly calculated doses. The March 8, 2012 and April 9, 2012 prescriptions for this same patient were labeled with instructions to store the medication at room temperature instead of being stored by the required method of refrigeration. The May 25, 2012 prescription for this patient was also labeled with an incorrect expiration date, which resulted in the last 2 days of a 5-day dose being labeled as expired at the time of its intended use. These same 3 prescriptions were dispensed to the patient without maintaining proper compounding records for each of the products dispensed. As a result of that inspection and the findings, on January 29, 2016, the board filed a 4th amended accusation against CIC and pharmacist Pormola, setting forth 8 causes for discipline against the pharmacy and Mr. Portola as owner, with 1 alleged also against Mr. Portola's pharmacist license. The causes were for failure to ensure staff training of injectable compounding, failure to comply with compounding limitations and requirements, record keeping of compounded drug violations, sale of drugs lacking quality of strength, erroneous or uncertain prescriptions, which was the cause of action that was alleged against the pharmacist Pormola. Also, failure to copy with labeling requirements, failure to comply with labeling requirements, failure to comply with sterile injectable labeling requirements, and failure to maintain records of compounding products. The pharmacy, through Mr. Pormola, executed a stipulation on February 4th, 2016, which was adopted as the decision of the board on June 17 of 2016. Petitioner Pormola executed a stipulation for his pharmacist license on August 18, 2016, which was adopted as the decision of the board on October 24th of 2016. The stipulations and the decisions revoked petitioner's pharmacy permit and sterile compound license and Petitioner Pormola's pharmacist license, but stayed those revocations and placed all 3 licenses on probation for a period of 4 years. Both petitioners were responsible to pay $10,339 to reimburse the board for its costs of prosecution, which have been paid. Both petitioners were responsible to pay an administrative penalty totaling $10,000, which has also been paid. Petitioner CIC has been paying probation monitoring costs and maintaining records of acquisition and disposition of all controlled substances as required. Petitioner Pormola completed an ethics course and 10 hours of remedial education as required. And I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioners unless the council wishes to make an opening statement first.
Council.
Yes, I would like to make an opening statement, Your Honor. I'd like to say good morning to the board members and Administrative Law Judge Cohen and Deputy Attorney General Tulliners. My name is Michael Houski, and I'm in-house General Counsel for Complete Infusion Care, Mr. Pormola. CIC and Ali Pormola would like to thank the board for the opportunity to be heard on their respective petitions to end for the early termination of probation. Through their petition submitted and this hearing, CIC and Dr. Pramola intend to demonstrate to the board that through their collective rehabilitation efforts, both before and during the time of probation, CIC is no longer the pharmacy that allowed the events in 2012 that led to their probation. As an initial matter, in January 2013, Avitas Kojayan became CIC's pharmacist in charge. CIC has never been cited by the board for any violation of pharmacy laws or regulations that occurred while under the guidance and management of Dr. Kojayan. The alleged violations in the Fourth Amended accusation, as just summarized by Ms. Tolliner, all occurred in 2012, and those were when CIC had a PIC by the name of Moshe Lalazeri, and prior to Dr. Kojayan's arrival. Additionally, in March 2016, CIC moved from their prior location to a new location, a state-of-the-art facility located at 2310 South Sepulveda Boulevard, a facility designed and monitored through the assistance of Brian Lattimore of Clean Room Services. CIC has an anti-room for scrubbing and gowning, positive pressure room in which CIC does only sterile to sterile compounding, and a negative pressure room for preparing chemotherapy. CIC is fully compliant with USP 797, and CIC has passed every board inspection at this facility. There have been 9 of them since March of 2016. Moreover, those inspections focused on the violations which were identified in the Fourth Amended accusation to make sure that CIC was in fact complying and with the issues that gave rise to probation in the first place. As to their performance while on probation, CIC and Dr. Pramola have complied with every term set by the board. We passed, as I said, 9 inspections by the Board of Pharmacy. We submitted all quarterly reports, timely paid all penalties and fees imposed by the board, timely completed all continuing education requirements, including Dr. Promola's requirement to complete a year-long ethics course through Professional Boundaries, which was approved by the board. Evidence of both CIC and Dr. Promola's compliance with all terms of their respective probation was submitted to the board as part of the petition. Today, we also gave you supplemental documents to show our continued compliance with all the terms on probation. In addition to complying with all pharmacy laws and regulations, all requirements of the Board of Pharmacy, all requirements of probation, CIC has taken another step while we have been on probation, and that is we've become accredited by ACHC. We went through the application process, we went through the survey, we went through a plan of correction, and we went through a second survey, and on March 20th, 2017, we became accredited by ACHC, and that's while on probation. To assist us in our efforts in becoming accredited, we hired Dr. Roger Klotz, a well-known pharmacist here in the state of California and a teacher at, I believe it's Western University. Dr. Klotz helped us to revise any policies and procedures that needed revising, and Dr. Klotz is also an ACHC surveyor himself. So he assisted us in making sure we had all the policies and procedures in place so that we would never find ourselves in a situation similar to we found in 2012 when there wasn't documentation involved. As Dr. Klotz is very fond of saying, in God we trust, but everything else must be documented. Dr. Klotz has helped us with the policies and procedures needed to make sure that we're documenting everything, and ACHC has agreed with that. In addition to that, we have reviewed and revised and reorganized our sterile compounding policies and procedures. This was at the recommendation of one of the inspectors who came and said that while we had all of the policies and procedures, she suggests we reorganize them and make sure that they flow better, that everything was there, easy to locate, easy to find for the inspectors for their next inspection. We hired Dr. Sherry Sherman to assist us in that review, and we again went through, reviewed, revised, reorganized, and if necessary, drafted additional policies and procedures to make sure that all sterile compounding requirements of the State Board of Pharmacy have been met. Dr. Pramola and CIC have taken the allegations against them very, very seriously. We have complied with every element of and every term and condition of the probation, In addition to that, we have created a situation where we won't find ourselves in this position once again by failing to have the documentation required. Both ACHC, Dr. Klotz, and Dr. Sherman agree with that assessment. Based on all of the foregoing, Dr. Pormola and CIC respectfully request that their probation be ended early.
Thank you very much. And it's my understanding that at this point you will make Dr. Pormola and the CIC representative available for any questions.
I am. Dr. Avo Kojayan is here to answer any questions that Ms. Tollener or the board may have regarding CIC. As PIC, he's available for that purpose.
And could you spell his last name?
Kojayan, Kojayn.
Thank you.
First name is Avedis, Avedis.
Thank you.
Get it right? Okay. Go ahead, Avo.
Well, no, hold on a moment. All right, Ms. Tolleners, did you have any questions for either of the petitioners?
Your Honor, if I may interrupt, I guess I misspoke and I misspelled Dr. Kojayan's name, so I'm going to allow him to spell his own name.
Please.
Is that possible?
When he testifies, he may do that and correct the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Tolleners, whom did you wish to question, if anyone?
Do I get to do it direct before you question?
Address your questions to me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Counsel.
Do I get to do it direct before Ms. Tollener asks questions? And my direct will be very, very brief.
Okay, you may. Whom do you wish to question?
Dr. Kojayan,
Go ahead.
do you want to put him under oath?
Yes, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State and spell your name, please.
My name is Avedis Kojayan. Last name is spelled Kojayan.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, counsel.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Kojayan, and I don't want to repeat things that have already contained in the package at all. I just wanted to clarify 2 points. The first is, when did you start working for Complete Infusion Care?
I started on January 2nd, 2013.
And has CIC ever been cited for any violations of California pharmacy law by the California Board of Pharmacy while you have been the PIC at CIC?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Tolleners.
Could you please tell us, sir, a brief summary of what changes you made that you believe are instrumental to address the areas of violation in the accusation?
Yes. The whole flow work of the pharmacy regarding documentation, implementation was revised. I take the position of a PIC very seriously, and I like to things done properly per pharmacy law, California Board of Pharmacy law, and federal laws. The steps, double checking in a sense with prescription wise, with the help of technicians, clarifying, making sure that the orders that we do receive, that before I do actually receive it, minimize, make sure the order is already complete before I do receive it. In rare cases, if it's not, then I would go to the point of actually talking to the doctor if I have to take it as an oral. But I would prefer to have it complete before I actually compound anything, and to get rid of any errors or omissions or anything that would make a prescription incomplete. I instruct my technicians. Obviously, every year we do the reevaluation testing and all that. And even in the meantime duration, I do oversee as being a PIC and guide them in a sense to a proper procedure of what is really required if they do go astray, and human nature, it does happen. But I do make sure that they understand that it's a very serious matter. Any errors is detrimental to our patient's care. And I encourage them to look at, and if they do see errors, help to facilitate the process of anything that we do to make it more efficient and more safe for everybody concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's responsible for doing the staff training of injectable compounding?
I am.
And how often do you do that a year?
Once a year.
And with new hires?
Initially, and then once a year with the remaining of the staff.
And in what manner are you keeping the records of your compounding products now?
I'm sorry, I
Are
don't
they
know.
electronically kept, or are they paper?
We have
trail?
both.
Are they duplicitous to each other, or are they supplemental to each other?
What do you mean, the duplicitous?
Like, are they a hard copy of something and then it's also in a computer, or?
I have a hard copy and there is a electronic version of it.
And who's doing the labeling review after you've compounded a prescription to make sure that the work you've done matches what the doctor's order was?
The technicians are the ones who do, and after it's prepared, they look at it. I also take a look at it as is before it gets packed and sent. So I look at it twice. Obviously, the first time I'm preparing it, then it gets prepared. The technicians look at the prescription and what is prepared, and then when I go to check again, I look at it again before it's packed, and it goes out to the patients or to the doctor's office.
How do you deal with a situation when a prescription is going to expire within a short time period?
I don't send anything that is out that is going to expire within a time frame. I make sure that it's whatever we sent is within the time frame based on the regulations of the board, based on their risk assessment. Most of the time we're a medium risk, which is 9 days if we're compounding certain batch products, or if it's low risk, probably 14 days. But we keep into the regulations that the board stipulates.
Can I continue with questions for Mr. Parmola, or do you want to go with questions for the pharmacy first?
What I'm going to do first is I'm going to have the board question both pharmacists together as they choose. Mr. Husky, did you have any direct examination questions for the other petitioner?
Yes, just a couple.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Do you want to swear the witness?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name, please.
Good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Ali Purmola.
Thank you.
I'm
Go
a
ahead,
pharmacist
counsel.
and a co-founder of CIC.
Dr. Parmola, in 2012, were you the pharmacist in charge at CIC?
No, I wasn't.
Do you recall who was the pharmacist in charge during that time period?
I believe it was Moshe Lalazari.
I have no other questions.
Could you spell his last name, please?
I'm going to try.
Go ahead.
Lalezari. First name, I believe. If
One of our documents is Lalehzari.
well,
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Tulliners, any questions?
Yes, I just have a couple. Mr. Parmola, could you explain to the best of your knowledge what factually you were responsible for in the violations of the Fourth Amended accusation?
I believe with respect to the board and the violation pertaining my license, there was a prescription and the dose of the prescription was incorrect. I corrected it and I failed to document. So the prescription was filled correctly. The dose was incorrect, but I failed to document.
So you did correct it before it was issued to the patient?
Yes.
And what steps have you taken since you've been on probation to prevent that kind of mistake in the practice?
We've made a lot of changes in our policy and procedures, as you kind of noticed, and documentation is in the core of it. We've done a lot just to make sure that everything gets documented. Any correction with a prescription, we'll make our best effort to have the physician rewrite the prescription and get it to the pharmacy. And the second step to it is we'll type it reduce it to writing and fax it over to the physician's office and have him sign it and fax it back to us. And obviously everything gets checked twice by the pharmacist and the technician before the medication goes out the door.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to the board. If you have any questions, after you state your name, just announce which of the pharmacists you wish to address the question to. Let's start on my right.
Victor Law. My question is to pharmacist Kojayan.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
What background do you have on the sterile compounding? What is your background?
Okay. I've been licensed as a pharmacist almost 23 years, over 23 years. I worked in hospital pharmacy, which was sterile compounding, for over 10 years. A home infusion pharmacy, right now, if I were to add the number of years, probably close to 8 years of home infusion, which we did sterile compounding, sterile to sterile. I haven't done any non-sterile to sterile. In my hospital experience, I have done some non-sterile to sterile, but overall, I have both retail and hospital experience.
And did you take any specific class in sterile compounding or any
Yes,
special training?
actually, critical care, which is a 1-week course. I'm a qualified person, 305A certified. And that was done, I believe, where was it? Where's the date? Oh, I took it out. Okay. I received the certificate on April 14th of 2017.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, this question is for pharmacist Ali Pomola.
Yes.
So going back to your violations back in 2012, and you got your probation order back in 2016. So on the violation that you had, do you think that the inspector, they were being fair to you at that time for citing the violation, or you think that was something very unjust?
I assume responsibility for it. The documentation is a big thing, and to be honest with you, this is what we do on a day-to-day basis. When we get a prescription over the phone, if there is a change, we document. In this particular case, it wasn't there, and
Luckily,
that's my responsibility. It should have been there.
Okay.
So I do take responsibility for that. Yes.
Good. Thank you. No further question.
Thank you.
Hi, Debbie Veal, pharmacist, professional licensee, pharmacist, whatever. Let's see, Dr. Pomola, can I ask you a question first?
Please.
What is your relationship to CIC?
I'm a co-founder.
Okay. Have you ever been the PIC at CIC?
I believe the first 2 years when we first opened, yes.
Okay.
From 2004 to 2006,
And so,
as I recall.
back when the error happened, how often are you kind of in the mix of the workflow?
Off and on. By then, I was more involved with the other aspects of marketing and also administrative issues. I was also a staff pharmacist as well.
And today, how often are you involved in the?
As part of my board requirements, at least 40 hours a month.
Okay. Do you anticipate being PIC in the future?
No.
Dr. Kojanian?
Yes.
Did I say it close
That's
to
fine.
right? Okay. So obviously you're here today. Who is covering for you today at the pharmacy?
I have actually don't know if it's called part-time, per diem pharmacist. She's covering for me. Do you want her name?
No, I don't need her name, but thank
Okay.
you. How have you made sure that she's aware of all these policies and procedures you've put in place?
Well, she's part of the yearly training. Whatever training our staff gets, she gets it too. And she has been with us actually over, I would say easily 5 years, but part-time basis or per diem basis.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
If I may say, I believe I said I was a pharmacist in just from 2004 to 2006.
Yes.
I believe my partner was, I think, from 2006 to 2008, I was a pharmacist in charge, as I recall.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for listening to us.
I had no question.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Tollners?
No, Your Honor.
Yes, counsel.
I just wanted one follow-up question with Dr. I'm sorry. They stole it. Okay. I have one follow-up question, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Pramola, at times between 2006, were there times when the pharmacist or the PIC at CIC may have changed, or you may have been between PICs where you acted as the pharmacist in charge for a very short duration?
As an interim?
Interim for very short time periods. Okay. So like,
I don't exactly recall the time.
I'm not asking you to recall specifically. I just wanted your answer to be accurate, that there may have been a few instances where Dr. Pramola acted as PIC only because we were between hires.
All right, thank you. Do the people submit,
Yes, Your Honor.
counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, with that, the matter is submitted. The record is closed. Let's go off the record.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you, and thank you very much for understanding that. I appreciate it. All right, very good.
Your Honor, is it okay for us to return these to the,
If you,
He probably doesn't want to carry
he
him
would like,
back.
I mean, one of us is gonna have to carry them someplace.
Yeah, we can, I'm sure there is.
I was told to bring copies.
yes, I appreciate it,
that.
counsel.
Do you want your clips back, though?
Ms. Siddiqui, please have a seat.
I can't take those, in fact, I prefer to for technical purposes.
Yes. We're ready to go to the next hearing. We're going right now to the next hearing. Start your file.
Start away. I know, I haven't said hi either.
Okay,
We'll be starting as soon as
yeah.
the reporter is ready.
Yeah. 5 minutes. As soon as the report is ready, we'll start.
There you go. That's great. I don't. You have to come back. I have to be at the deliberations, so I don't mind whether you have lunch first or second. That doesn't matter. All right, let's go on the record. We are here in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Ferozan Siddiqui, case number 4762 before the Board of Pharmacy, OAH number 2018-120133. Today is December 14, 2018. It's 12:21 p.m. We are located at 2300 Mickelson Drive in Irvine, California. My name is Howard Cohen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to conduct this hearing for the Board of Pharmacy. May I have the parties introduce themselves, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the record, Your Honor, Deputy Attorney General Desiree Tulliners, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522. And good afternoon, board members.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
And state your name, please.
My name is Frozan Siddiqui.
Okay, good afternoon. And there is a quorum of the board. Ms. Siddiqui, you heard the instructions I gave in the prior cases?
Yes.
And did you understand them?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. Then we will proceed. Go ahead, Ms. Tolleners.
Thank you. I would first like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. I would also like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 2 the agreement to electronic recording of hearing. The board members and petitioner have been provided with copies of the same set of these exhibits.
Okay. You may approach. Thank you. These documents are marked as Exhibits 1 and 2, and you're moving those into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection to my receiving these in evidence?
No.
Okay, Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. And let me just ask you, Ms. Siddiqui, in addition to the petition packet and the agreement to electronic recording, is there anything else, any written document you want the board to consider?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Tolleners, you may continue.
Thank you. I would like to provide a brief summary of this case. On March 27, 2012, petitioner was convicted of misdemeanor grand theft in Alameda County Superior Court. The circumstances of the crime were that between the years 2002 and 2012, period of 10 years, petitioner was registered as an in-home support services provider for her mother. During that same time period, petitioner's mother traveled outside of the United States on numerous occasions. Petitioner fraudulently signed and submitted timesheets representing to the state of California that she had cared for her mother during time periods when her mother was not even in the country. Petitioner cashed pay warrants in the amount of $23,906.47 for approximately 2,416 hours of work she did not perform. As a result of the conviction at sentencing, the court ordered petitioner to serve 36 months probation, to repay the $23,906.47 in restitution back to the state of California, to pay fines, and also disqualified her as an IHSS provider for a period of 10 years. The discipline against her pharmacy technician license was ordered following a hearing on an accusation filed by the board. The three causes for discipline for unprofessional conduct were for commission of an act involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, and fraud, knowingly signing documents that falsely represented the existence of a state of facts, and conviction of a crime which was substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of a pharmacy technician. Effective August 22 of 2014, petitioner's pharmacy technician license was revoked. On May 12, 2015, petitioner's conviction was dismissed by order of the court pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4.
What was the date? I'm sorry, counsel.
March 12, 2015.
Thank you.
Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of her license. She has not yet paid the costs that were ordered in the amount of $3,325, which were required to be paid before petitioning or before reinstatement. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner unless she wishes to make an opening statement first.
Did you wish to make an opening statement?
Yes.
Let me put you under oath before you do that. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you're...
I have problem with right hand.
That's the one. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor. It's
Okay. Thank you very much. And make sure you speak up so the court reporter and the entire board can hear you.
Okay, sure. First, I would like to say thank you, the Board of Pharmacy, for today's meeting. My pharmacy technician license was revoked for 3 years over an issue that Board of Pharmacy is aware of. I would like to say that I'm truly sorry. I have learned my lessons and facing the consequences, and kindly asking Board of Pharmacy to release my license, my pharmacy technician license, to perform my duty as a pharmacy technician
Thank you.
and duties.
Okay, Ms. Tulliners, questions for petitioner?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me, thank you. Ms. Siddiqui, you submitted some letters in support of your petition,
Yes.
and I have a couple questions for you about them. The one from Terry Clark, she said that she wasn't aware of the disciplinary penalty imposed by the board when she was asked about her letter. Can you tell us why?
I just asked her to write a letter because I didn't want her to know about this story because it's a long story. I didn't want her to not to trust me because she's my close neighbor and we have very good relationship. I just told her that my license is was expired. So in order for me to get my license, they need a recommendation letter, and she kindly approved, and she said she's gonna go ahead and write a recommendation letter about me, how she was thinking about me, and how we have a good relationship as a neighbor. And she go ahead and did it for me.
Do you understand there's a difference between having your license be expired and being revoked?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that Ms. Clark could have been aware of that when she's writing a recommendation about you?
She should have, yes.
How would she be? If she didn't know that you had been revoked, how would she know that it wasn't just expired?
She would have, if I told her the whole thing that was going on, she should have looked at me in a different person. That's why I didn't tell her.
And who is Nina Chen?
Nina Chen is the pharmacy staff that I work with.
And how long have you worked with her?
I worked with her as starting 2011 to 2014.
And when she was questioned about the letter, she didn't know about the disciplinary penalty imposed by the board either. Are you aware of that?
She wasn't aware of that. I told her about its expiring. It expired, like my license was expired.
So again, you told her your license was expired, not
Yes,
revoked?
yes.
I'm sorry, allow her to finish her question. You told her it was expired, not revoked?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you think that is a misrepresentation of the status of your license?
Yes, it is.
Why did you do that?
It was a big mistake of what I did. I'm really embarrassed of doing something like that. I didn't mean to do it, but I did it to help my mom. But I didn't want my neighbor, my coworkers to know me as a theft, as somebody to doing something like that. I was really embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. That's why I didn't tell them.
And who is Fardina Saba?
Ferdina is a close friend that I have known her since 1986.
And in the follow-up to the letter she submitted on your behalf, it was discovered that she was not aware of the disciplinary penalty either. Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
And why is she not aware? She's your close friend.
Because again, she was my close friend, and we have known her for over years. I didn't want her to think that I was, I did something terribly wrong. So I didn't want to lose that friendship.
Why do you think the the letter should be relevant to the board to consider your petition then?
Because I did something terribly wrong. It was wrong, and I want the Board of Pharmacy to think that, to believe me that I'm not someone that I did something wrong. I'm capable of doing a lot of good stuff. I'm helping a lot of people. I'm helping my mom. I did help my mother-in-law, and at work that I honestly work, and I did love my job, and I would like to be open and do learning new stuff, and then be capable of going in a professional place again and start my professional job once again.
What have you been doing for employment since the license was revoked in 2014?
I have been doing some voluntary work at senior program that my mother is going to. I'm going there every Wednesday, help them out with preparing lunch and help them with the kitchen. And also been picking up some one kid from school, pick him up from school and drop him off to daycare.
And I'm reviewing in the packet, there are two parent CE certificates included in your packet that are dated before the revocation of your license. Do you have any more recent CE?
I don't have any new CE.
Have you taken any classes or training in the area of pharmacy technician schools since 2014?
I did some, took some continuing education classes for like 2.5 hours. Been studying some part of some medications because I need to know the brand name and generic name because I don't want to forget those. And pharmacy laws, and but I don't have any certification of that.
When did you do that?
When did I do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I started doing it since last summer, starting June the 1st, and then on and off going. When I have time, I just go and then practicing all those medications and pharmacy laws.
Why do you want to be reinstated at this time?
I'm open up to some new opportunities, and I would like to go back and help my pharmacists, my customers, and I'd love to go there and do all my pharmacy duties. I'd love to have my job back, and love to have my license back.
Do you have a plan in place for the repayment to the board of the costs order, which was listed as a condition precedent to reinstating your license?
Yes, of course I do. But I think since I didn't have any job ever since 2014, I'm kindly asking Board of Pharmacy to lower the price a little bit lower so I can afford to pay back. Yeah, of course.
I don't have any more questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Do the board members have any questions? Let's start on my left.
No question.
My name is Stan Weiser. I'm a licensed pharmacist. So with regards to the state of California, have you had an opportunity to repay any of the $23,906.47?
Yes, I did that.
You paid
I
it all
paid
off?
that. Yes, of
Good
course.
for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Debbie Veal, pharmacist. Yeah, I have a couple questions. So when you come and you ask for your us to consider changing your probation, one of the things we're looking for is to see that you've rehabilitated. I would call what happened is that you were dishonest, and that's why we're here today.
Yes.
So when I look at what you've stated so far in the letters, it comes off to me that maybe that was dishonest.
Yes, I know it was. But again, because from the bottom of my heart, I'm not the kind of person to do that. I did what I did to help my mother. But again, I have very good relationship with my coworkers, honestly, with my neighbor, my friends. I love them so much. I just, in a point, I don't want them to think that I was capable of doing something like that. They wouldn't understand. So I know I was dishonest, but I did it not to hurt them, because I'm not the kind of person actually capable of doing something like that again in the future.
But if we're talking about rehabilitation and you proving that you are no longer dishonest, can you explain to me how that action, from where I'm sitting, how that proves that you've rehabilitated yourself?
Dishonest again, but I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry.
I understand. And what you did do as far as signing the logs, when you were doing it, did you know that it was wrong?
I knew it was wrong, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Victor Law, pharmacist. Thank you for coming here today. I just want to ask you one thing. So between 2014 and now 2018, there's been quite a few changes in the pharmacy law. So can you tell me one thing that's been changed? I just want to see if you are keeping update on the changes in the profession of pharmacy since you've been out of practice for 4 years. Do you know anything changed at all?
I don't know. I have not practiced that.
Okay. So are you willing to take the PCCB exam again if you want to be a technician since you've been out of practice for a while?
Yeah, sure.
You're willing to?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
No questions.
Maria Serpa, professional member. Thank you for being here. Your story is very poignant, but I think what you are hearing from us is that we need something from you. We need you to have references that know the whole story and still stand by you. They are out there. I think you just have to trust them.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because otherwise it makes you appear to not be completely truthful. And I don't think that's what you want.
No.
The other thing that I would ask you to seriously consider, some of the other things that the board members have brought up, is to prove to us that you want to be a part of the practice of pharmacy. Go to CE, go to training, do things, get involved. Prove to us that you are a good person, because I think you are a good person, but you have to prove it to us. Okay? Don't give up.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
People submit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you submit?
Thank
Okay, the matter is submitted. The record is closed. Let's go off the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Now the board is going to we're going to go to closed session now. And for those of you, you could sign out for your CE because after the closed session, we'll go into deliberations and we could reconvene just to close the board meeting. So I think you all are excused. Thank you.